be required watching for any new committee members that come through. Mm-hmm.
Is executive session appropriate for what essentially is a workshop meeting?
Given the subject matter, yes.
What kind of subject matter would be discussed that wouldn't be public information?
There could be sensitive items that were talked about, for instance, what you can or can't put into executive session and bringing up examples.
Yeah.
So that was his suggestion, that we do it in an executive session so that you can all be much more frank.
As opposed to just doing it as a non-televised workshop?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, never heard of it, but okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, a non-televised workshop, the public can still attend.
I just don't know what would be,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're protecting there.
Mm-hmm. And that amount of detail I can get from the attorneys.
Yeah, I'd like to know what his reasoning is. I think, you know, the whole idea is to make sure the public's well informed about what's happening in the town.
Mm-hmm. It's also to make sure that the committee members understand how to run meetings and what is permissible.
Right, and that would be great for the,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the committee members, but it's also great for the town to see what's happening.
Which is why he will be also doing a class that can be run whenever on the TV, can be posted on our website, and will be required watching for any new committee members.
Sharice wants to talk.
Yeah, Sharice?
This is
No.
my last Budget Finance Committee meeting. So, Budget Finance Committee members may or may not know, but the 2023 bond that we did for Public Works Garage, tennis courts, and Tesla Top improvements, in that, they call it I'm looking at Sue because she has her own acronym. It has an acronym and what it stands for. Preliminary official statement, and then there's a final official statement, so a POS and an FOS. And in that document, which is, I don't know, 50 pages long or more, it's very detailed. It has a copy of the audit and historical data and statistics on the town of Raymond compared to the county, the state, the region, and the country. But another excerpt in that is the CIP plan, looking out 5 years. So in preparing that document this to close in November, and we're working on it in July and August and September, the CIP plan is contained in that document as it stands now. And then, you know, if there's ever a need to go out to bond again, it would be good to have that updated based on, you know, whatever your recommendations are. And I can give you a copy of that page excerpt out of that document if you like.
That would be very helpful.
Okay.
Yes, we'd like to have it. Thank you.
It was a shot in the dark for me, but I did consult with department heads, and it was very time sensitive in getting it done. So, but it's just a target. Looking forward 5 years. It's just a target.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you, Sharice.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that
Thank
very
you.
much.
Got
Okay.
two things real quick. So are we planning to do something on Tuesday? I think it's the 28th? Is it
25th.
25th?
Yes. Would like to schedule the next meeting, if possible, for an orientation workshop for the Budget Finance Committee. And I'd like to know if July 25th might be available, a week from Tuesday the 18th.
I should be able to do from Zoom if it's possible.
Okay.
Wow, she's looking. I think we need to use something of undesignated funds to fix that podium. It looks like it needs. It looks like it needs some nails in the top there or something.
There are no other meetings currently scheduled for July 25th.
Okay, is everyone here available for Tuesday the 25th?
That should be good.
I could do it virtually.
Okay, all right, then, let's schedule that. 6:30 works for everybody?
Did you say Tuesday, the 25th?
25th.
Because I have the 25th of July
June 25th?
June, oh, I thought you said July.
I did, I apologize. I have June printed out right here, right in front of me. That's why I didn't see it.
So it's June.
June 25th, yes.
June 25th.
Oh, that's,
The CBA meeting has already been canceled, so there is availability.
I see what the problem is. I wrote down July on my notes, but I meant June.
Yeah, June 25th would be good for me.
When you say an orientation meeting, what does that entail?
Just to welcome everyone and to go over the ordinance for the Budget Finance Committee. Get everyone acquainted with that.
Okay.
I know you're acquainted with it, but
Yeah.
we have a couple of
I was
new,
just
other
curious.
new
I
people.
was just
that-
curious. I think it's a good thing, but I'm not sure it's anything they've done before, but it's a good thing.
Yeah. Okay. All right, well, he's gone. Anything else from the Budget Finance Committee?
Nope.
Right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I can second that.
All right, all in favor? Stand adjourned.
Welcome to the June 20th public hearing. Just for clarification, this is a redo of what we did at the last meeting because for some reason the ad did not get properly run in the paper. So to meet the notice that we need in order to go forward and try and get the TIF wording changed, we need to do a redo. So is there any comment on updating to the tax increment financing district to include broadband? Seeing none from the people present. Any on Zoom?
No one has their hand raised on Zoom.
Okay, we will close the public hearing then. Is Mel going to do the?
Yes.
Good evening and welcome to the special town meeting for the town of Raymond. In the name of the state of Maine, I am hereby required to notify and warn the inhabitants of the town of Raymond qualified to vote in town affairs to meet at the broadcast studio located at 423 Webbs Mills Road in said town on June 20th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. to act on Articles 1 and 2 as set out below. Article 1, to choose by written ballot a moderator to preside at said meeting. I will now entertain nominations for moderator.
Sorry, I nominate Joe Bruno.
Second?
Motion to close nominations.
Second.
Vote.
You need to vote to close nomination.
But Mel has ballots.
Okay.
Yeah,
Joe
you
Balzo.
need to have a vote to close nomination.
Okay, I will now entertain.
I motion to close, and he seconded, so all in
Yep.
favor.
Okay, all in favor of voting to
Closing,
close?
yeah.
Thank you. All right.
All right, so you
So
need
now
paper.
we have ballots in front of you. Nope, you do not have ballots in front of you.
No.
Here. Apologize.
Thanks. You only need 3.
I'm gonna vote twice.
Oh, Derek's good too.
Somebody need one?
Some extra ballots. Those are blanks.
I need at least one more.
Does Sam have one?
You got 3.
No, Sam didn't give one back.
These ones are blank. I only have 2.
Okay.
What do I put on here? What am I supposed to write down?
Joe Bruno. Just right.
Just do it very quick.
And Dennis voted one as well, I think.
Yep.
We're at 5 votes for Joe Bruno. Raise your right hand, please. I, Joe Bruno, do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state, so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof. So help me God. I do swear that I will faithfully discharge to the best of check.
Welcome to the July 9th Select Board meeting. All members are present, so we have a quorum. First order of business is approval of the minutes, May 6th minutes.
Motion to approve?
A second?
Discussion? All those in favor?
Motion to approve June 20th meetings, minutes?
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor?
Motion to approve June 28th minutes.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Next item of business is consideration of renewing liquor license for the Fisherman's Catch.
And I sent out a copy of the fire inspection. It was completely passed today. And this is simply a renewal.
Okay, so I have a question. When I was printing the paperwork out for this, one of the things for the outside, it says a diagram for extension of privileges area. And it says the following restrictions apply to outdoor extensions of privileges. And there's 3 different things that would have to go with the tent outside. I didn't know what this word was, so I looked it up. There must be a stanchion. Yes, and I looked up what that rope thing was. Or a fence completely enclosing the area. Signs must be posted stating no alcohol beyond this point, and there must be sufficient employees at the extension area of premises who would be able to control and monitor the area. So, is he doing that? I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay. Because I think that's one of the conditions. That's why I was going to ask Chris. I don't know, Wayne, do you know anything about that?
Well,
You're
we can't
muted,
hear you,
Wayne.
Can't hear you.
Wayne, you're muted.
Sorry about that. The volume's really low. I'm having a hard time hearing your questions.
Okay. So for the extension on their tenant area where they're sitting, as far as part of the application on here, it just says that there's 3 restrictions that apply to outdoor extension of privileges. Pretty much where they have to have a stanchion, that fencing, or a fence completely enclosing the area. Signs must be posted stating no alcohol beyond this point, and there must be sufficient employees at the extension area of premises who would be able to control and monitor the area. I don't know if that's yours or if that's code.
That would be code
Well,
for
and
those 3.
That's actually state. That's for the liquor license
Okay.
themselves. They deal with that piece.
So this is part of state.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
part of state.
All right.
That's part of the state license.
Thank you. All right, so I don't have any more, and you said that, yeah, the thing passed.
Can I just make a point? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. And now that I'm looking more closely, because you just said that, make that point about the page with the diagram.
Yep.
It looks to me like that page with the diagram, including the tent and the outdoor space, is from a previous application. That's not the typical page that goes with a renewal application. So this tent area has been approved in the past.
Yes.
with those restrictions. And then it looks like they just used this page from a previous diagram when that happened for this renewal application.
Showing pretty much everything that's used and where it's at.
Correct. So that page that this diagram is drawn on doesn't usually go with a renewal application.
Okay, so this one actually just goes with the liquor one.
So this page,
Oh,
this page would normally go with a separate first time, when they literally applied the first time for the extension of the tent area. I know a lot of restaurants did that through COVID. So that's a separate application, but it looks like they've just used the old diagram, because it still applies,
Right.
on that page and put it in with this current application for a renewal.
So who then checks then, I guess, on the no alcohol beyond this point and stuff like that? And those 3 restrictions?
My understanding is the state.
Like she just said too,
Yeah,
okay.
the state really follows through on
So we
that.
can't, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not us, okay. All right, so, since it's not us on that one, if nobody else has anything, I make a motion to accept the renewing of the liquor license for Fisherman's Catch.
Second that.
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried.
Thanks, guys.
Next item is consideration of the August 13 public hearing, special town meeting warrant. Before we do that, wanted to bring up one thing. We're having issues, not issues, but we're having problems with getting videographers here at the 5:30 time. So what I want to discuss is changing the meeting times to 6 o'clock instead of 5:30, because that'll allow the videographers to get here. Does anyone have a issue with that?
Nope.
Okay, so the warrant that was in your e-packet says 5:30, but the one that we'll sign will say 6 o'clock instead.
Would it be that out of line to go back to what it used to be at 6:30? Or is this?
Actually, it was 7 before.
No,
Was
it
it
was
7?
6:30.
It was 6:30.
Yeah, it was
Pretty
Oh,
sure
we-
6:30.
We used to do 7.
Yeah.
And then we backed
You
it
did.
down.
I mean, it's, the reason that we kind of pulled it back a little was to try and get people home earlier from the meeting. I mean, sometimes what it would mean, especially when, when we're looking at like this next meeting, where we're gonna have the public hearing plus that, things like that, those can tend to go a little bit longer. I mean, it's always something we can discuss and see, but, but.
We're moving in the right direction. I like 6.
My stomach starts grumbling though. 'Cause Yeah. Peter?
Peter Levitt, 2 Levitt Road, could it just be possible in consideration down the road that all standing committees and boards in the town have the same start time and maybe the same limitation on how long the meetings go? I do know that each committee and board has different requirements, and certainly the town wants to try and accommodate the volunteers. However, for the sake of the public and consistency, you might want to consider down the road having one consistent time. Thanks.
I don't know if we can do that because other board members are different for their boards. And so what happens is we are 5 that do for us and the planning board
We
does
were
their
5.
own thing, so yeah.
I'm not sure what time the planning board starts theirs.
7.
Do you remember? 7? Yeah. And sometimes there was reasoning behind that sometimes dealt with one of the members of the committee who couldn't get there till a certain time, so that kind of drove what time they started things. But as I say, with I know that this next meeting we've got there's going to be a lot of things on there, so if we go with that 6 o'clock, that allows the videographer to get here, plus some more time for people to get here. So can we have a motion to approve the warrant for the special town meeting?
Motion to, go ahead. Oh, motion to approve the warrant for the special town meeting for the land use ordinance change for commercial, solar, and residential districts petition.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Next item on there is the recommendation for the article. So the planning board, as far as I understand, is not going to have a recommendation on it. So select board, we either move to recommend or not recommend.
I guess just a little bit of clarification too. The reason why we did not put this on the agenda before and do a moratorium is because we were advised against it, and I just wanted to put that out there as to, it's not that the select board did not want to put it on there, it's just a matter of we were advised against it.
This isn't a moratorium.
No. But, no, we're considering that. Do you know what I mean? That was different from before, is what it is, putting the moratorium on the, that weren't before. So that's why you guys had to step up and do this step, is what it is. So, all right, so if there's no, so, you want a motion on that?
Yep.
A motion to recommend, that the select board recommends the special town meeting warrant article?
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No. Motion is carried. Next item is consideration of building on the Public Works Garage. We had a meeting the other day with the Public Works, town manager, and myself. The decision has been made to withdraw the request for the Public Works Garage at this time.
Do you need a motion on that at all?
No.
Okay. All right.
Next item is set a date for a joint meeting with Planning Board and Comprehensive Plan Committee.
Excuse me. That's what I'm
In, yeah, Planning Board, Comprehensive Plan Committee, and Select Board. So, the next meeting, I mean, what we would do would be to schedule that at one of the Select Board meetings. We would have the regular Select Board meeting and then conclude that, go into a workshop for those discussions. So it would be at one of the regular Select Board meetings. And, you know, whether we do it at the August meeting or the September meeting, I think is going to be a little bit conditioned on how big that August meeting is going to be. We've got the special town meeting at that. And what other things do we have coming up in August?
Right now, all we have in August is consideration of accepting a gift for the Raymond Village Library.
Oh, okay.
That's good then.
So we could schedule it for that night. Would that, do you know if that would work for comp plan committee? That would be, wait a minute, let me look at the,
August
that would be
13th.
August 13th.
Peter Levitt, 2 Levitt Road. I'm the co-chair of the Comprehensive Plan Committee. What I would say is a couple of things. First off would be that it may behoove the groups, number one, to allow sufficient time for this workshop. I foresee that it would be probably a fairly lengthy one. I did not envision that every member of the Comprehensive Plan Committee would attend, although it wouldn't surprise me if they did. Likewise, I would not expect every member of the Planning Board to attend. Certainly, code enforcement needs to be represented, in my opinion. So it would be Select Board, Comprehensive Plan, Code Enforcement, and Planning Board members that would be involved in the workshop. So that could be a large group, it could be a smaller group, but I believe it would probably be a fairly extensive discussion, because from at least the comprehensive plan's perspective, there are a lot of things to update the committees with and the boards with, and also the fact that these I would expect that it would be appropriate for a representative from North Star, who are our consultants, be involved. Although they aren't citizens, I believe that they could be allowed to speak in a workshop format. And I have been contacted about other boards or committees also being invited to be in attendance. So my recommendation would be, in order to bring all committees, standing committees and boards on the same page with something as involved as a 5 to 10 year plan for where this town is going, that the Select Board could extend an invitation to all of those standing committees as well. My experience has been, and now I'm not speaking as the co-chair of the comprehensive plan, but just my experience in committee work in general, is that it's sometimes that someone who works diligently on a committee tends to develop the sense that their committee is the most important one. That's committees and boards alike. My experience has been that if you want a cohesive effort in a municipality, that you try and not encourage that sort of a train of thought. Every committee is important, and therefore every committee deserves to be at least invited to be represented in something as involved as planning for the future of the municipality. So I would ask the board to consider that in extending their invitations. Thank you.
Well, so what you're really saying ultimately is it doesn't make sense to try and tack that on to the select board meeting, but to come up with an alternate date and have that as a standalone.
I would think that might be a better approach, to have a workshop in which all of the committees are represented in the town, all of the boards are represented in the town. And I'll give you an example. I was contacted by a member of the Budget Finance Committee who asked about whether they were going to be invited. Now, the simple answer is to say anyone who's a citizen of the town or an interested public member can attend any of these meetings. So whether a formal invitation has to be extended or not, I don't know if that's requisite. But what I would say is that just to pick one issue, if the Budget Finance Committee is talking about developing a capital improvement plan, and the word plan is in there, similar to a comprehensive plan, and if they're talking about decisions of putting aside money for the next 5 years for the town, for improvements in the town, it would seem to me it would make sense that at least their input be asked for. If no one has an interest in doing that, then no one has an interest doing that. However, the beautification committee, in my opinion, is as important as the comprehensive plan. It has something to do with the town, and it says something about us as a town. How we take care of our cemeteries says something about our town. So once again, I just ask that the board would consider that there be adequate time put towards this workshop if in fact there's going to be discussions about the future of the town. I can tell you that on the timeline right now, the Comprehensive Plan Committee has received the first draft from North Star of the comprehensive plan. So it's not that we couldn't be sharing information with all of those committees and boards as far as where things are going, as far as the comprehensive plan. In December of this year, what will happen is that the comprehensive plan will start being rolled out to the community, and there will be public hearings and discussions on it. That'll probably take place between December of this year and March of next year, with the idea being that during that period of time, the finalized draft of the comprehensive plan will go to the state for approval. So that just gives you a little idea of the timing. I can tell you from my own perspective, there's a wealth of information to share, and we've accumulated a wealth of information survey-wise by the committee, and it's been well formatted in a presentation type of a format for all of the boards and the committees to look at. So it will be very informative and educational for all involved. So that would be my recommendation, that it be a separate workshop, and that all of the standing committees and boards be invited, along with the public. Thanks.
Rolf, I would not have it in this room either, because you want to make sure that it's big enough for everybody and everybody is not crowded in here. So, and if it's a workshop, we definitely want it filmed, because it is going to be good input and information, especially since the school is out. We could always use the gym or the cafeteria or something over there. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to turn my back on you on that.
No, you're fine.
what you want is enough spaces for everybody to be able to sit and get Kevin signed up for it, but be able to also get it filmed.
Yeah, I mean, we have to get that approved by the school, even though it's,
Whether they're doing
yeah,
floors. or
whether they're
whatever.
open or not, because, you know.
The only one issue is that it's gonna be in August, so probably wanna find some place.
Well, it
that's not
doesn't, no,
gonna
it
be-
doesn't necessarily have to be, doesn't have to be
No, I'm
August.
just, yeah, I'm just saying.
Well,
somewhere.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying, we're trying to get it into a school thing, then it kinda does, cause if you roll it to September, then they're gonna be in school, and, I mean, I guess you can do it at
Yeah,
night,
because
but,
you do it at night. it
Yeah.
does.
Well, except that the last town meeting that Kevin set up, it took 6 hours to set up all
That
the
is- yeah.
equipment.
And I guess
So
that, you know, it
isn't
depends
simple.
on which room you do it in. If you do it in the gym, that takes longer than if you do it in the cafeteria.
We can bring in chairs, we can bring in whatever, but at least it does, it's kind of big enough for everybody, which would be nice.
Let's do this. Sue, can you check and see with the school on potential availability dates on there?
Yes.
Then we can, then from there, we can query the people to see, you know, let's get a couple of dates. And then we'll see, because I can tell you, no matter what we come up with,
Oh, no.
not everyone's gonna be able to make it, so.
And I
Yeah.
think it's also
It
too,
just,
and-
it just never works.
it's also a no-brainer too on
So it's
having
more,
every committee there.
which one can you get more of a critical mass at?
But I think I think it's like I said, a no-brainer on having every committee invited, like he said, but yeah. And then this way, everybody feels like they have a say at the table.
All right, so.
I would just expect that it would be a situation where, at a minimum, we would encourage all of the chairs and co-chairs of the committees to attend, and then basically information can be disseminated to the boards and the committees through the chairs.
Speaking of information, are you thinking that you'll have a rough draft to send out to everyone before the meeting so that it might not be a 3 or 4 hour meeting? I mean, at what stage do you think that
Sure.
draft will be?
I would tell you that with the timeline that I just explained, we just received the first draft from North Star, the Comprehensive Plan Committee, in the last week. It's a rather extensive document. We have no meeting this month, and the idea was that we would get the draft this month to digest it, to be ready to discuss it in August. That being said, I've already scanned through the document, and not to beat a word to death, but it's pretty comprehensive. The only changes I see to it will be changes that come from the public's input and committee input. So I would tell you that North Star has been pretty clear about disseminating a lot of information in draft form, especially when the public has not yet voted on it, for fear that may be in some way trying to bias the community into coming to a conclusion or supporting a certain portion of the final plan. So what I would tell you is that the idea of this workshop is that certainly we're able to share ideas and thoughts about the general aspects and of the draft plan, and also information that we've already collected.
So like an outline would go to us before the meeting?
I would think that there could be an outline. I would say even more, Dennis, that a lot of the survey information and the like has been published on the website.
Okay, I've seen it.
And that also reviewing the meetings that are all well documented through the DVD process and on our website also provide a majority of that information.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of, how much work do you want to expend into looking at it. But I will tell you that we have been cautioned about taking draft material and sharing it with the public before the vote.
Well, yeah, I mean, draft material is, it's dangerous because the draft all of a sudden disappears from the heading, and then people take that as the final document, that's dangerous because you get competing documents out there. So, I don't disagree with what you're saying there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next item, consideration of select board representatives on boards and committees.
And what I've given you is what was decided last year.
I'm fine staying on the beautification if nobody else wants it.
Sam, you all set on
I want to
the
stay
veterans?
on the vets, yes.
And recycling, not much we're doing on that right now, so I can stay there.
Right, do you need a motion
Yeah.
on that? Motion to keep the names the same on the select board representation on boards and committees.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No. Motion is carried. Public comment.
Hi, Jennifer Danzig, 38 Pulpit Rock Road. So just a quick question, because Rolf, you opened the meeting talking about 5:30 versus 6. So on August 13th, is the
6.
special town meeting at 5:30 or at
No,
6?
6.
Okay, and from what I understand from the last special town meeting where we voted on the TIF or whatever, we have to be here right at 6 to get our pink cards to be able to vote. Is that correct?
We'll be up
The
here
meeting-
about half an hour early.
Yeah, the meeting will start at 6, so you need to be here before 6 to
Right, okay.
get your pink cards.
Okay, so get here at 5:30 for the 6 o'clock meeting, so
No,
even though it
use a
starts at
red
6,
card.
yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I just had a question for Peter about the workshop, about the comprehensive plan. I know throughout this process, when we've been talking about the ordinances and we've been before the planning board with respect to our issue, we were told it always comes down to the ordinances. It doesn't matter what the comprehensive plan says. But at one point, I thought I remember hearing that like the ordinances that we write in Raymond are supposed to be in alignment and based upon the comprehensive plan. Is that accurate?
That's one of the, it's one of the topics that will be discussed in that meeting is how that would, how they, the planning board would integrate items and things like that. So.
Okay.
But
I just wanted to make sure
the
that I
rules,
understood
the final rules are the ordinances.
Right, that's correct. Okay. All right, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I understood. Thank you.
Peter Levitt, 2 Levitt Road, yeah. In response to that question, I think the way I understand it the best is the ordinances that are approved by the town, so it's the town people's ordinances, what generally directs the town. That being said, the description I've read on the state website is that an approved comprehensive plan by the state of Maine serves as the underpinnings in law for those ordinances. So in other words, if just a hypothetical, if a comprehensive plan that's in force says that there should be no further commercial development on the 302 corridor that abuts residential areas, and the town then votes to pass an ordinance that allows that's where you run into trouble with the courts, because the court's going to say there's no consistency here. You're not following the comprehensive plan that was also voted in by the citizens of the town. So that's my understanding of it. No legal force other than the fact that it puts the municipality in a precarious legal situation.
That leads to another question. I can't remember if the 05 or 04 plan was voted through, or this will be voted through by the town people. In other words, it usually gets, my impression was it's submitted, amended a few times to work through the process, and then it goes to the town people for a vote. So that becomes accepted by the town and the state.
To the state first. They
Yeah.
approve it or not.
And then back.
If the state doesn't approve it, they send it back to the town.
Right.
But once the state has said, yes, you meet all the requirements according to the land use.
I'm sorry.
Peter, we can't hear you.
If the state uses the basically land management guidelines or ordinance, the state law, to determine whether or not all of the requirements for state approval of a comprehensive plan by a municipality are met. So it's the town that the state that's going to first say, yes, we give you the blessing. This is an approved state comprehensive plan. And then it's voted in by the town people. So that's generally the process. In 2004, that's what happened. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I think, Dennis, you were on that plan committee, the town actually sent the first version back to the town. And that's because one of the requirements in the land management, Maine state land management requirement is that all new construction in municipalities include at least 10% in what meets the affordable housing definition. And as I've been schooled, and I've mentioned once or twice before at other committees and the like, I was schooled in that there's, as far as affordable goes, there's big A and there's little a. So when the planning board says, well, you know, it's kind of an oxymoron. Right now in 2024, there is no such thing as affordable housing. Well, that's probably very true for most people. They can't afford a house. That's small a. Big A is affordable housing that is basically a federal definition that is based on income and what low interest mortgages and other federal and state assistance can be given to get someone into a home. So not to confuse those two, but anyway, that was an example of the 2004. It got sent back and to the town. It was reworked, and in the 2004 comprehensive plan, there was a commitment that 10% of all new housing in the town of Raymond be affordable, big A, according to federal standards.
That's when the ordinance came out for the apartment.
That's when the planning board basically submitted to the board, the select board, that was put on a warrant. What at that time was called, I guess, in-law apartments,
Right.
Which is discouraged now. It's not in-law apartments; they're accessory dwelling units.
Accessory dwellings. Right.
Yeah, as of
But
July 1st.
that came down as a state requirement.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, but what I will tell you is that I have it on good information that that portion of the 2004 comprehensive plan, we never even came close to it, as far as the 10% of all new construction be big A affordable. So, once again, that's a situation where it was in the plan, but we didn't really achieve it. And so, once again, I will absolutely guarantee you that in order for the state to approve this plan, because that requirement in land management by the state has not changed. As a matter of fact, it's even more important now. But what I will tell you is that the object lesson for me in that was this. When I got on this committee, I was bound and determined we're going to get some sort of affordable housing policy, a committee or something in this town to try and at least make an effort to attain that. And over the course of the last 18 or 19 months involved with the plan, you know what? The governor and the Senate basically said, no, we're gonna pass a state law that says accessory dwellings are going to be in every municipality. So you can drag your feet and you can say no, no, no. But when the circumstances are right, what's going to happen is no matter how much you want to make an argument that we're a home rule state and the municipalities have the final say, we don't have the final say. Unless we want to go to Superior Court and spend a lot of money and try and say that we have the final say. So, any other questions on that? No? Thank you.
Other public comment? Don't see anybody raising their hand online. Okay, selectman comment.
Okay, I have some things. Does anybody else have any selectmen comment? Because mine, I'm going to ask you to indulge me here on this one. I think that I'd like to have some things, I guess, clarified and just straightened out, I guess. And I also would like to go over the budget finance meeting that was on June 25th. A comment was made about, can the Budget and Finance recommend items to the warrant? And someone else said that he has always heard that the budget items can be decreased but not increased. He feels it is anti-democratic. Town meeting is the governing body, and that is like telling them that they can only reduce, not increase. Rolf, do you want to answer to that? Well, before you answer that, there's also other comments that were made that they would like to draft up warrant language to give up to the to the select board, which they can. And the comment was also made, can't find anything that says that the select board will do the warrants. Why does the select board put recommends when they are the ones doing the warrants? In the past 3 years, they have yet to receive anyone in the public works with a CIP plan. I don't know how that got thrown on there with it, but you want to say something on the warrants, Rolf?
The warrants, the warrants are, the authorization to create the warrants comes under Section 30A from this, under state law. The select board is the governing body to create those. The town meeting is the governing body of the town, so they vote on those warrants. But the warrant articles just don't come down from like Mount Sinai on tablets. They have to be created by somebody, and that somebody is the select board. And that's rights and responsibilities delegated under Section 30A.
Okay. The other comments that were made too is, I believe that the Budget Finance and the Select Board would like to get together to work on clarifying the ordinances and to see if any changes need to be made. I think it was this is 23, I can't remember when the last one was. Sean, I think you would know. I think you're the one that said the date of the last changes to the Budget Finance meeting.
Last changes to the Budget Finance Committee was
Like-
when it lowered it from 9 to 7 members. And that was, Marshall was the chair then, so that would have been 8 years ago.
Okay, so that is something that they were talking back and forth about as far as sending possibly an email over, or I think Karen was going to send over some information. Karen would like to draft up warrant language to give up to the select board. So I don't know if that changes the warrants language. I don't know if it's...
The Budget Committee does not have the authorization to create warrants. The Select Board does.
Right.
And
Well-
it's just that simple. They make a recommendation if there's a financial issue in there, but they do not create the warrant.
Okay, well, and Dennis, you had mentioned, when you're saying right, you're agreeing with Rolf now, because you had mentioned at that meeting, it says you can't find anything that says the select board will do the warrants.
No,
So-
they could do the warrants. What I said is, nothing gets on a warrant without their say-so. They don't have to vote on it, they could just put it on there. That's what I said. And yet they vote on it anyway. But truly, it comes from you. But we recommended, or I tried to recommend a sprinkler system, for example. I said, can we put a warrant on there so that the townspeople could decide on a sprinkler? And it wasn't possible. You know, it couldn't be added. And then went back and it was amended after that. So there was a lot of changes that went on the second year I was on the Budget and Finance Committee.
I don't remember, all right.
So the point is, when we asked for a couple things to happen, it didn't happen. No warrant gets on without the select board's approval. That's all I said.
Well, and I think the
Doesn't
sprinkler
take a
system
vote.
that you were talking about too had to go with the Public Works building at the same time is what it is. So, I don't know, but I'm not gonna talk anymore about the Public Works building because that is now off the table. The other thing too is, I'm just bringing stuff over that was
Wait, I
over.
have a question about the last one.
Mm-hmm.
So, are they on that particular part? Since Susan's is here anyway.
Yeah.
Are you saying? Say there is. It's hard because it's pretty hypothetical, I guess, but or Public Works, whatever. So, if you guys, I know it was your idea, but I think how ultimately it would go around would be Budget Finance would come up with an idea, and if they like it good enough to either vote, I don't know really how they're, it's not different than this board, but if you voted on it, agreed on something, say you wanted sprinklers in the thing, and everybody up
We all
there,
did.
and then you came up with a motion and voted on it, whatever, would that then get sent? That's kind of like a recommendation you wanted added to the warrant for the select board to look at and then vote on to see if it was added to that? Is that what you guys are
Yeah,
saying?
we pretty much were unanimous that we wanted to sprinkle the building. We all talked about it, and we expressed it, and yet it couldn't get on there. So at the very end, when the warrant was being written, I said, can we just add a warrant saying that the public will decide whether they want to sprinkle the $6 million building or the $8 million building, whatever way you want to say it, the narrative. And it didn't happen because the select board didn't want it on there. And it won't happen without the select board wanting it on there.
Right.
No matter what we recommend.
Right.
Could be unanimous, and we could be say we wanted to put anything on.
What I'm saying is that, well, if we can come up with maybe a more formal thing, because I didn't get like as a select board member during this whole process, I didn't get asked to vote on that particular part to add that to a warrant or something like that. It's more like you guys discussed it and it was all unanimous, but for us, it's easier if there's like, I would say, a formal vote or something that is getting then passed on to us, and then we can say whether we
I like
want it
that.
on or not.
I like that.
Because
That's
it's a little
good
bit
start.
harder, because if
That's a good
not,
start.
if not, I don't know what you guys are talking, who agrees to what and whatnot, and then it gets sent.
Well, Sean, please
'Cause
wait.
It sounds like we are.
Probably go up there.
Oh, sorry. Okay. No, because I got, yeah, sorry. All right, is that on that same issue? Because there was a bunch of stuff that was
That
said,
one
so-
sounds like we just fell off into thin air, but I think it's because it needs to be something more formal than, there's a lot of things flying around, and we can't, I don't know which ones we're grabbing at unless that's why it's set up in a more formal format. I don't know the actual process on that if we can or not, but I don't see why we wouldn't be able to if they had a recommendation of something that needed to be
Right.
changed or reworded or redone. Vote on it, see if it's legal or not anyway, and then it gets to us, and then we would either, vote on it and see if we were gonna add it to the warrant, because in the end, it's our warrant, so.
Yeah. As I say, they cannot create a warrant.
Right.
That's just right out.
Right.
The whole purpose of having the joint meetings that we had was to get inputs so that when the final when the final warrants were written, it had inputs from both boards. There were changes that were made to some of the amounts and things like that. Some of the that came out as an outgrowth of those joint meetings.
Those meetings, yep.
So to say that there was nothing they weren't listened to is absolutely totally ludicrous and false, and couldn't be any more false unless you stood on your head and spit in a
Could you point them out so that the public knows what you're talking about? Which ones you took for our suggestions?
Oh, that's on here. So I want to bring that up because you did mention at your meeting. No, you brought it up at a meeting, and you brought it up in a newspaper article. You also brought it up at a meeting that we did not listen to anything that you had said as far as recommendations go. And the only recommendations that you guys made was regarding the public garage. And one of the things about the public garage is we told you that this was being done, and it was definitely not on the timing aspect of it. But as far as everything else, one of the things that you guys were doing, as far as any other warrant article, you didn't have any changes. In fact, you guys were going through your meeting and looking for changes and cuts, so where you could possibly think that we might make a cut on something. And I remember watching the meeting, and we didn't make any changes. So the only changes that you guys say that we did not listen to was regarding the garage. That is it. So to say that we did not listen to any of your recommendations is also false.
Well, I just asked for a couple suggestions you took.
We took all the other warrants.
Yeah, there was changes in amounts, there was changes, if you go back and review the tapes, you'll see that there were.
I have.
I'm gonna give you that.
We discussed monetary items, and there were some things we raised, some things we lowered. We moved some things around. Some of the, if you look at the original budget package versus the final budget package, there were a lot of changes in things in there, and those were an outgrowth of those joint meetings. So just, to say that they weren't listened to, somebody either had their fingers in their ears or I don't know what, but, it's absolutely false.
I just asked for a couple of details.
That's, I don't have those off the top
I
of my
guess
head
I would ask
I'd
you
have to
that.
go back
What
and-
didn't we listen to?
I have to go back and
That's what
look
you're
through the
I'll give you an
books and
example.
see what
Okay.
where we changed amounts.
When the warrants came back, and both bonds for the pickleball courts and Tasseltop were combined with public safety, public works building, we asked to separate them, And then we're told that you can't separate them because they've already been written up. That's 2
That was
years
2
ago.
years
2
ago.
years.
That
I'm
was
just giving you an
that was
example.
2 years ago.
I'm going to give you an example. It went back, and then, again, there was not even a vote for that particular 3.5, but when it came back out, it was changed to $150,000. The select board did that, from the 3.5 million.
But that's what we did was a final select board.
Again, we didn't
you
have
put-
input except for the final vote. So I'm giving you an example of where we wanted to split it out and never got split out, and it was just a simple request. So if you need a formal vote each time, at least that's a start. I think that's a good way to
If you
do
had
it.
split it out, you would have had 2 bonds.
You can combine them after the vote.
No, not unless you have the wording in there to allow you to combine them.
Right.
So, and just because we don't listen to it, we are listening to it. Just because we don't take it, doesn't mean we're not listening.
I just gave you an example.
Well, no, I'm just saying, so, all right, and I guess I'd like to go on with all this too.
Well,
Go ahead.
Are you going on that one?
Well, I'm staying on all the selectmen comment. If you got something you want to put in as public.
Oh, wait.
This is, to me, important. It really is. Because when I'm sitting and watching this stuff at home and this stuff is not accurate, I do think that this is an idea that Dennis brought up. He says a policy or ordinance needs to be made that anything over $1 million needs to be publicly discussed. Do you remember talking at that? Yep. Says our meeting, well, you do say our meetings are not transparent. And you also said special town meetings early in the morning about money where people can't be there. We don't have those about money early in the morning.
Money?
Special town meetings. You mentioned on here, yeah, you mentioned at that meeting on June 25th that we have special town meetings early in the morning about money where people can't be there.
Well, it's of the annual warrants, the bond, the band, broadband that we were doing for Kevin and the town was at 8:30, 9:30 in the morning, wasn't it? There was one thing early in the morning that we did a quick meeting.
You have to separate two separate items there. We didn't have a special town meeting. We had an emergency meeting to approve the wording so it could go to a special town meeting. A special town meeting was held in the evening. So there's an action that we had to take in order to put out the notice so that you could have the special town meeting. That was done in an emergency session. That was, there was no money discussed there or anything like that. That was just strictly to be able to get the warrant out there so that then it could come into a special town meeting, which was held at night. So there was no money discussed there. We've never had a special town meeting in the morning. The only time we'll have, if we have to have an emergency meeting for one thing or another to get something so that it then can come to.
So that morning it had to be done instead at night because of timetable, I guess?
Yeah, because it was a formality to get the warrant
It was already supposed to be in the paper.
It was
not the one
to
that
get the
supposed to be in
warrant
the paper?
issued to be able to call for that town meeting. So that was the only purpose of that meeting, was to approve that warrant, which then called the special town meeting.
And it was a money issue though, really?
No.
So it's a statement.
The only thing that was
Okay,
discussed
okay.
there was to
All right.
approve the warrant itself. The warrant says, okay, now you're gonna call the people to a town meeting. Two separate things. You're confusing that with warrant articles that go in for the budget. We just approved a warrant for the solar thing, town meeting, same thing. But you get into notice times and things like that, and in order to meet some of those, we had to, in cases, do that in order to get the notice out there in time so you could have the special town meeting on the schedule that you wanted it.
All right, so that one had to be done 12 hours earlier, so at 8:30 instead of 6:30 or 5:30 at night, there was a reason for that? I'm just asking, it seemed like a weird time for something that was dealing with something that's gonna be on the budget. That's all
No,
that's the
that
point I was
wasn't
trying to
something
make.
that was dealing with something on the budget. It was dealing with
A special
was
town
calling a
meeting.
special
Yeah.
town meeting.
To deal with something
So
that's
all
on
it
the
was
budget.
doing was approving the warrant that called the special town meeting. There was no recommendation on there. All it said was, we're gonna have a special town meeting. That's all it was. So there was no money, there was no money issues or anything, money that was approved or disapproved or anything like that. All it was saying, yes, we selectmen approve calling this special town meeting. That's all it was. So if people are trying to make it out into something that it's not, well then that's their, that's their misunderstanding.
Well, it's also the public misunderstanding because that all went public.
Yeah.
It did, and that's the reason why I think it's important that we bring these out, is what it is. It's more of an educational type thing too. So we get,
Can you just explain again what I asked? It couldn't have been done at 6:30 that night, it had to be done at 8:30 that morning?
It was a matter of, in order to get to press and things like that, it had to be done at a certain time. And it met the schedules of the select board to be able to do that as an emergency meeting to get that approved.
You have to have it in by a certain time.
Yeah, it was, that
1:30.
particular step is an administrative step in the process. It isn't setting what anything is or making any decisions other than to approve the warrant so it can be posted online, it can be posted in the paper, it's ready to meet the deadlines. With emergency meetings, we try and do it as early as we possibly can so that it gives the public more time to know it's out there and to know that it's coming up and to advertise it. It's for transparency that we do it as quickly as we can for that administrative step.
And the paper that comes out Friday or the Portland Press Herald? Which one, when you talk about the
It
public?
goes in the Wyndham
Eagles,
Eagle.
So,
where
yeah,
we
that's
put all
Friday.
the-
And it also gets posted on our website. It goes up on our electronic sign. It goes
For
on
my
our
education
Facebook
though, I'm
page.
asking for my education, so I know, is it the New England, is it the Wyndham paper that we're trying to get it in time on that Tuesday
We're
morning?
trying to get it as early to the public as we can, which is
Okay.
putting it on our stuff, is the earliest.
But our official
It's
paper
part of
that we put all our
transparency.
legal things is the Wyndham Eagle.
Right, and so that's what you had to have, the paper had to have that ad in it for Friday. Okay.
on another issue, I know the garage is now off the table, but this needs to be clarified also. Rolf did not say we were going to find another way to do this garage. Rolf is a very ABC type person when something, he says, read what it says, don't read into it, don't add anything, because it changes the meaning to it. So, with that being said, there was conversation at your meeting the other night that just talks about the select board kind of going around and doing it a different way to get the garage done. One of the things Dennis did say is that the Budget Finance has the right to put together a committee to put up the garage. Frank said put it on the next meeting as far as the Budget Finance to put together a committee. So I don't know where this board stands with that. As far as Budget Finance doing a committee to put the garage together?
Budget committee does not have the authority to do anything other than a subcommittee of itself for an action. They cannot create a committee that has town backing. The only ones that can create and appoint a committee is the select board.
Okay, so
They could,
Just
if they
clarify
wanted,
that,
if they
so-
wanted to have a subcommittee to study some portion of
Right.
budget, they could do that, but they cannot create a committee out of whole cloth to do something entirely different, because that's not in their charter.
okay, and
And
You
the
wrote the
reason
charter.
being is, when you appoint when a committee gets appointed, there are there's legal implications that flow back, and if it's not appointed by the select board, then there's no protection.
So how do you interpret that ordinance then, when it says that they will develop and present to the town meeting a CIP plan, 5-year plan that they will research, investigate, and
Says they will
interview?
develop and present, that presenting is
And
that goes into
investigate.
the budget. So that comes to the select, it comes back to the select board.
Well, I know it won't go onto a warrant until you guys approve it, I understand that, but it says research, investigate, and to.
You do that. You're doing the research from the standpoint of looking at what are the what's in there. 'Cause I can
Any
tell you, the
bond?
original CIP, I helped develop that way back when that first went in. So I know, and you were looking at all, you're looking at all the assets, you were looking at all that, you're looking at retirement schedules on things like that, and then, you're
Grants
throwing
and
things on there. But a CIP is it's a planning document. It is not a, it's not a finalized, it's not a purchasing plan.
No, I know
It is,
that.
because it's malleable. You can, things move in, things move out, all of a sudden you don't need this, something that you thought you were gonna need, you don't need because something's changed. You take, if you take to a further, suppose the state ever got into, you know, consolidating on public safety, which they keep talking about ad infinitum, but never getting anywhere. You know, then all of a sudden you take, you know, things that you needed, you thought you were gonna need in, you know, in the town, now you may not. It's gonna be covered someplace, some other way. So it comes, you know, so it moves out of the plan and something else comes in. But I mean, you know, and things happen, you know, something breaks, so you have to, you know, you move it from here to there because you need it. But I mean, the plan looks at it and says, okay, you've got something that has a 10-year useful life, so your plan says, okay, at year 8, you're gonna start doing something for that. But something can happen, and it can slide back. But that, you know, that is a committee that, you know, that is something that the budget committee itself does, as far as pulling that together. And you're dealing with, you're taking the old CIPs and you're updating those.
Yeah, I think that's all we're saying. I think that really, if they decided to put a building committee with using resources that are available, be it a code officer.
But they don't have the authority to create that type of a committee.
But they can interview the person, they can ask them questions about the process. We're not talking about going out and hiring people. It says research, interview, and interview. That's what the law says.
But if you're not doing it and you haven't been directed by the select board to do it.
The town voted in that ordinance.
The towns, you know, yeah, you can, you know, I mean, you can, if you're investigating a budget item, you can ask questions of people like that, but now you're creating a new committee, and that is not allowed. That's entirely different.
I'm glad we're gonna have that meeting with a lawyer, because I really believe when I read that ordinance, and it seemed like there was a separation on at least the capital improvement plan, where they would have the authority to interview the people, the department heads. Department heads.
Yeah, absolutely, the department heads.
And Chris is a department head, so you could talk to him about possibilities. You could talk to Nathan about the size of the bays.
Right.
You could have.
My apologies, I thought you were talking about outside people coming in to do a committee. That's
No,
what it
you'd have to
sounded
get
like.
approval from the select board or the town
Yeah,
manager.
no, so my apologies on that one. So yeah, so that's what I thought, yeah, department, yeah. Right, and I don't know how you want to do this one, because I know this is mentioned a couple of times. Sean had mentioned at the meeting that getting budget finance input as far as the BUTO money that comes back in, because they have mentioned a couple of times as far as what they would want to do. So maybe the budget finance puts together, I guess, some ideas and sends it over as to what the money could be used for and that type of thing. So I just wanted to make sure that that was just relayed again, that you guys had talked about that again. Another thing that was said, and this is just so not true, before any meeting, before any vote that we have always had a public hearing, a public meeting to ask questions, always. And Karen had said that she's not familiar with the town meetings. Well, to the budget finance, to us, to all the people out there in the land of this TV, if you guys, it's the official document, the videos. So if you go on to raymondmaine.org and you go under Raymond IPTV, and you can pull up every meeting, every agenda back to 2001. And it shows special town meetings that were on there, and it shows what the agendas were, it shows what the minutes were, all of that. So, and one of the comments was made by the ex-town manager that just said that he doesn't remember having a lot of them. And I think it was either Peter or Dennis that both said, yeah, there has been some, there's been several of them. So, and I think, and so to say that we have not is definitely not it. And just another, I guess, heads up as far as when people are putting things out there, information that's out there that's not accurate. One of the comments was as far as that there was a gag order put on all the employees in the town. That did not happen. The ex-town manager was out on FMLA, and a letter went out that said, do not contact him with any kind of business because it is against the law.
And don't accept a call from him.
Exactly.
And
Because if it's business, we
Right.
can't talk to him about it.
don't call him for anything.
Exactly.
Well, the town employees that I was talking to at the time felt like it was a gag order. They couldn't even check in on the guy.
Then maybe they should have talked to the town manager instead of talking to you about it. And
It
instead of
didn't
putting
come
a
to the
gag.
town manager, it came from Joe Bruno. Came directly from Joe
No,
Bruno. I read it.
no,
I got a copy of it.
You told Joe Bruno, when you guys were standing outside,
did.
that we put a gag order on it, and he had to explain to you what FMLA was.
I agree.
And what happens is you cannot call an employee because whatever the reason, if it's pregnancy, it's anxiety, it's mental, it's broken leg, whatever, they're out on a leave. So to give them a call from us and then put them under stress or whatever to work, we can be sued. So to not say anything, and it was Joe's job as the chair, working with the interim town manager, because Dawn was still the town manager at the time. And we hadn't even put her in yet. So it was not a gag order. And Joe did not ever tell you it was a gag order.
No, I told him exactly what, he probably told you half of it. I said, I was in there on a regular basis. I was working with a couple of the people on different things. And everyone there felt like it was a gag order, that they couldn't even check in to see how Don was doing. And when you say, and it wasn't the first time. I mean, I'll bring it in and read it next meeting and let the people decide. It's a straightforward.
It's not the people's business.
Well,
It's a confidential
It's
issue.
a confidential document, it's
So-
an FMLA protected
Yes.
item. So, so to say that you're gonna bring it in an open thing, it means you're not understanding the law either, and you're subjecting yourself to litigation,
Well-
which I don't think you wanna do.
No, I don't.
Okay.
But I'm trying to explain why it was taken that way.
It
That's all I
doesn't-
was saying.
That's why they would go and talk to the interim town manager, or say, what exact, what is that, instead, I mean, that goes beyond
It does.
ludicrous.
I didn't bring it up. Teresa did.
I did, because this is stuff that was put out in the public.
And I was trying
And
to
this is
explain
stuff-
to you.
I know, but when you're putting stuff out that's not accurate, that's not okay. It really is not. You didn't even realize the whole FMLA thing. And one more thing I do want to put out, and then I'm going to be done. Peter, I sent you a letter, and you've told a couple committees this. And this is, I guess, my day to call everybody out. I'm just there. I was really nice when I sent you that text message, and your comments are really rude. And I'm going to say it. I wrote, "Good morning, Peter. Happy Father's Day," and this was on June 15th. You handed out a comp plan report to the Budget Finance Committee. Could the Select Board get a copy of that report too? It sounds like there's a lot of good information in it that would be important to read. You came to, and I said, thank you, Teresa Sadak. You came to our meeting and you said to us, you didn't get it because you didn't ask for it. We're the ones that had put the comp committee together. But to come here and say we didn't ask for it, there is a question mark on here, and I was very nice. And then you went to the Budget Finance meeting on June 25th and said, oh, I think they're a little jealous that Budget Finance got a copy and you didn't. So anybody out in TV land, it is on the internet as far as under the departments. But again, I think you were very rude in that. And I'm just calling people out because I was nice and I asked for a copy because it looked like it was very informative. So I am done.
Okay.
Get your allowance.
Sean McKelvey, we're Maine, Budget Finance and Comprehensive Plan. I'm gonna keep this short because this is getting it's a little much. Our committees need to get together. Budget Finance and this committee need to get together, I think, and we need to discuss some things. That's my recommendation. To sit here every night after Budget Finance Committee or Comprehensive or Select Board and have a 30-minute conversation about each other is it's getting a little old, guys. I would like to suggest as not on behalf of Budget Finance Committee, but as a citizen, these two committees need to get together and we need to kind of work through a couple of things. I do feel like year one for me last year was a rubber stamp on Budget Finance Committee. Year two, definitely started getting some more input. Even year two, a lot of my suggestions, when I would bring up a couple of suggestions, it was shot down by a particular member, and the comments were always made, we've already discussed this and we've decided that this is how we're going to handle this. I think a lot of my frustration on Budget Finance Committee comes from those comments where this has already been decided. So when we're talking about doing things to help the warrants out, I understand there are some things that we just, we can't do, but we can definitely make suggestions. But unfortunately, by the time that the warrants are out, we're voting on them. And we're not allowed to make any recommendation. We're only about to, from June 20th, I remember, Rolf, you said this, petitions cannot be changed. They cannot be recommended or not recommended. So I understand that. We're not changing the language, but if we had some input on some of these things ahead of time, I think that would help out, our overall thoughts on the warrants. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna really say. Just as far as one comment I do want to say, Rolf, you did say, I mean, your words were that specifically about it, the garage getting, the garage was that we didn't say no to doing it. We said no to funding it. We're going to find, and I don't remember exactly what we were, so I'm not going to requote you. That was the words. The intention was different, I feel. The words were the words, but I think the intention wasn't that, hey, we're going to find a different way to do this. Hearing that from you, I think was important, but I think that the words were, we're going to do it this way. But the intention, I think that
the words were, if it was to be done, we would have to fund it some other way because the bonding was turned down.
Yeah.
That was, I think if you check the tapes, you'll find that's exactly what I said. I didn't say we were going to go around and do it some other way. I said, if somehow we were to do that and the bonding was not issued, it would have to be funded in some other manner. And that's because once you said no to the bond, you said you're not going to bond it. So if for some reason it went forward, then you had to fund it by some other mechanism.
Fair. I think that's what I'm saying is that the way you said it, specifically the words. I'm not going to beat you up over the words. I'm just letting you know that I'm saying I understand what your intention is now, but the way the words were made it sound a certain way. Mm-hmm. As far as getting this garage built, I think we need a subcommittee. I think that when you guys said that, we're taking the building off the table right now, I didn't jump for joy over that. That's not what I want. I don't want to see the building not take place.
Oh, I didn't see you jump for joy. Oh, sorry.
No,
okay.
You didn't say that at all. I'm saying when you said that, I didn't feel good about it. I do want to see a building for Public Works, but I think that the process, we need to start over in the process. If there's a subcommittee that needs to take place, put me on it. But I think that I want to see the building. I want to see it bonded, but I need to tell the public what's it going to cost. I need to be able to tell the public the reasons why we're building it to that size. And if it's down on Plains Road as opposed to here, I need to tell them exactly why we can't outfit that building. I need to be able to tell the public all these things. And I do think that if we are being transparent, I think a lot of things that we're talking about being transparent, we need to be transparent with the town. We owe it to the town, and that's why I'm on the Budget Finance Committee. I really think that you put a committee together, we show the town, I think they'll bond it. Whatever that amount might be, we have to really show them that these are the reasons why we need this garage. I'm all for the garage. I think I've said that multiple times. I was not in favor of how this process went over the last 2 years, though. So, any questions for me?
No.
Peter?
Can I add one more thing in real before Peter, because Peter did bring something up. I will give him the credit on this one. He did stand up there and he did correct the budget finance, and when he said, we did not ask the public whether they wanted that building or not. And so the question is, do we ask them first? Whatever it is, but it's off the table on that one. And I'll wait till Peter gets done to add one more thing.
Let's get together, for real.
I'm good with that one. I like that part of it for sure. I think the other problem with the budget finance and the select board, the way it was, I wasn't here. I started this time that year, so I didn't go through the whole process. You've been in that part of it longer than I've been on the select board, but I didn't see you guys or that whole process start until later on. I think it's better this year how you guys are starting it earlier so that there is more input, I would say, I guess, on when we go to get in for the warrants. I think not having all that other information in some of the meetings, I don't know how many you need or whatever, but I think just being a little bit more organized and informative going into that would help last year's, and I see this year it's working
Yeah, this
well
year,
that way, so.
we've decided to meet monthly.
Yeah.
Where I think where in the past, they were
What was
just
the first meeting last year? Do you remember what you guys had?
2023?
Yeah.
The first meeting?
February 2nd or 3rd.
Right,
Yeah.
of 24?
Well, they all started in February.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. And then it's rushed because it's February and then
Yeah,
you're
we're
putting
looking
them
at,
on.
we're looking at all this information and to say, not only are you
Yeah.
looking at some old information, but now you're looking at what we have to vote on for this budget.
Right. Trying to get information, give us some suggestions, and then get it written in time to get it on for June.
Yeah.
That's a
and
very small time frame.
on
so.
top of that, because I'm a comprehensive plan, I'm thinking 10 years
Right.
forward. So certain projects, I'm like, hey, I know that this is something that we're going to be looking to do in the future, but to do that all in a couple of months during tax season,
Yeah.
during all this
Yeah,
other
exactly.
stuff, it's, you know, it's not enough time.
And
So
then it
that's-
gets convoluted because we look like we're not taking your suggestions, but your suggestions are kind of half suggestions because they're so rushed, and so it's just, I think it's better this.
Yeah, so the first time I would
guys
hear
get more
something, I would say, you know, going back to the tax, you know, the violation that we had. Yeah, we'll definitely, I'll get them with my committee and try to get a couple suggestions that we've been thinking about, but,
Oh, Buto.
Meeting would
when, what,
heal that.
what was that?
He said a meeting like would heal that, like
Oh.
a meeting between us, yeah.
But going back to that, when I had suggested something to a certain select member, it just got shut down. It's like, this is how we're going to use it. And it's like, well, you know, I think that, you know, not that, I think that we can be more creative in this way. And it was just, nah, that's it. We're going to do, you know, we're going to do it this way. So, yeah, I think that budget finance is, it's going to look different every year. And it's not because I'm against you guys or anything like that. Just when I signed up for that committee, the first year I was on it, I went home to my wife and I was like, I'm kind of worthless. what was I there for, you know?
That's right.
Where this year I'm like, no, I've got strong opinions on this thing over here. And now, you know, going to year 3, or not even this year still, we have more members on. And I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think that, you know, we've been down a couple members, budget finance, over the last couple of years. And I think that the town is kind of listening now. Now you have more people on budget finance, and I think we're still down by one. I forget if we're down by one or.
I think you're at full.
So being full, where in the past we haven't been
You had
full.
3 openings and the three people went on, so
Yeah.
you're at full,
Okay.
full strength.
So we're full now, but if you look over the last couple of years, we've never been full. It's always looked like it's always been the struggle to fill those positions. So I think that, you know, like I said, I'm not coming after you guys. It's not my intention. I've got no win in that. I think that this committee has done, you know, amazing work to keep this town really financially well. AAA bonding, you know, we keep hearing that term. Got nothing against that at all. But budget finance is supposed to be a check to make sure that, like Dennis was saying, like, I think that when stuff goes on the warrants, like, you guys already made that decision. So of course it's not going to go on there. That's why budget finance wants to have that say too. And I know that we have the ability to have that say, but I think in the past nobody has said anything about that. Now that we're kind of digging up and realizing, like, hey, what is my actual job on this committee? As we're kind of digging those things up and finding it, then we're realizing, hey, budget finance has not been doing this job over the last couple of years.
No, quite a few years. Yeah, way back.
So the town owes, you know, it's owed to the town to have a strong committee to make sure that it's a balance, you know? I'm not trying to attack you guys, but I do think that we should get together because I understand that there are certain members on Budget Finance Committee that are, I don't want to say the old guard, but like, you know, they, you know, but you understand what I'm saying. So that's my thoughts. So I'm not going to beat you guys up over it. I just want to let you know.
Well, one of the things of bringing this stuff forward is to make sure that you guys hear that whether it's correct or not, you know what I mean, as far as like the warrants and stuff like that. And one of the other things that you guys were talking about at your meeting that I wanted to make sure was covered too was you guys were talking about getting the word out more to people. And it is hard. That's one of the biggest things in town is getting word out to people that different things are going on or whatever. And Frank had made a suggestion, and Rolf came up with a perfect explanation as to it's not a matter of not doing it, it's a matter of why. He just said, have a public meeting in the afternoon for a couple of hours, and then the people at that meeting can vote that
right after that meeting, and then open the polls the whole next day for the people who did not make the meeting can vote all the next day.
And you can't do that because there's a potential that something could be changed, which is then not carried through onto what people are voting on in the other. So if you're going referendum, it can only be done that way, because if someone were to vote absentee, which a number of people did,
Yeah.
if something changes, they didn't vote on the same thing.
So that's why so this is to stop, I guess, you guys from an idea with the correct information, because I'm thinking, all right, that's a possibility. And when he said to me on it, yeah, no, it can change the next day, as far as like, say, they go in on that meeting and they vote to not do the garage, that whole thing has to come off the next day for the people that are doing the secret ballots, is what it is. But this way, where you guys are getting the information back, as to saying, nope, that information can't go through because of A, B, or C.
Yeah, it sounds like my committee has a lot of desires to do things, but a guy like Rolf who's got that knowledge, we don't all have that knowledge. We've got a good collective
bounce it
mix,
off him.
but pass that knowledge to us, and we may make mistakes and say like, hey, we want to do this, and it could be totally something we can't do. And that's when you guys come in and say, okay, listen, you can't do it this way because of this. Like, I remember Rolf just like, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes ago was like, can't do that subsection 23 or something like that. It's like, where'd you get that? Like,
This is why when I say make a line in the cement, and he goes, no, you can't. So my B brain is going bzzz all the time. It drives him nuts because he is that.
yeah, we're kind of like the hare that wants to get to the
Yes.
the next step, and Rolf's
Yes.
like, no, slow down. But always I've been saying for a year, or for the last couple of years, is pass that knowledge on. And yeah, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to say stuff that maybe isn't true. You correct us. Okay, that can't be done that way. But I think our two committees are going to work better together than we are going to work apart. And I would like to see that.
Me too.
And I believe we can do some sort of special town meeting way in advance if we started the process earlier. I mean, it was all crammed up. Even when we had the emergency meeting, we were told, Karen was told that we couldn't get our vote changed because the ballots had already gone to print. That's how close we were on everything. So if we move up the schedule so that there's input along the way, no, that's what happened anyway.
Peter?
Did you had something?
We can make it work.
Peter Levitt, 2 Levitt Road. I heard the chair described as an ABC guy. I think I would interpret that as saying he's process-oriented. I can relate to that because I find myself being process-oriented. I would tell you that anyone who knows me knows that I'm not someone who's out seeking a lot of friends. I'm not. That's just who I am. What I am interested in is fairness in the process. I can't tell someone that they weren't insulted. If they feel insulted, then I will have to say, okay, you were insulted, because I can't tell you what your feelings are. What I will say is the reason, as far as process goes, that I'm even talking now, I'd ask the chair, is that this is Selectman's comment. And the reason I'm up here talking is because I believe my name was mentioned.
It was.
And so if my name is mentioned, I believe I have the podium. So that's kind of process.
I knew how that had to follow. That's what we did.
But I would say that the last 20 minutes of this meeting is kind of reflective of what, without getting too much involved in sports analogies, what a coach told me a long time ago, which is when you have a team and there are new members that join the team, that's not really true. That's not really true. When there are new members, it's a new team.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would ask you to think in those terms. The last 15, 20 minutes of the meeting, in my opinion, is not helpful. And so bringing up issues from 1 or 2 years ago, or bickering and sniping back and forth and suggesting that someone is not telling the truth or whatever, that may serve a purpose in clarifying something. I'm not sure. I will tell you from personal experience in this community, I saw a board that was what I considered to be rather dysfunctional. And it was very close to my heart because I had a relative that was involved in that board. And what I saw is that there was a slow degrading of the opinion of the community in the town. And that was not any one individual's fault. That was the fault of the team. And so what I would encourage you to do is to stop all of this sniping and bringing back issues in the past and look more towards the future and how there can be cooperation, and kind of echoing Sean's comment, and I believe I saw a couple of select board members nodding as well, that there has to be a cohesiveness, a working together. One of the things I regret on the comprehensive plan is that North Star, our consultants, basically handed us a list that I was relatively insistent on of all the department heads in the town. Because in the past, the comprehensive plans have been that the consultant did the interview with the department heads. And I was adamant that no. I think for our committee to function correctly and get the correct information, we'll go out and the committee will interview the department heads. And that's what we did. What I regret now is that included in those department heads was not the selectmen. And that sitting down with the selectmen, the comprehensive plan, and asking them certain questions and getting their opinions on things would have been helpful for us. But for whatever reason, the consultants didn't suggest that, and it didn't happen. The attempt of us having the workshop is to accomplish that. And so that's what we're trying to do. And if in my response to a select board member on a Father's Day about an email, I guess what I did is I was expressing my frustration with the fact that since January of this year, I had been asking the town manager, I had been asking the chair of the select board that we have that sit-down meeting. And I was put off, and I was put off, and I was put off. And so if anyone took offense to my frustration, I apologize. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
All right.
I have a couple questions, just education, but it's not public comment.
Oh, it's open now.
Well, if it's not public comment, I mean, are there questions that you can?
Well, there are questions about things that you guys were talking about, so for my own education purposes as a citizen, I have some follow-up questions for you as a board.
All right.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay, that's why I'm asking. I didn't want to be disrespectful. Okay, Jennifer Danzig, 38 Pulpit Rock Road. So just encompassing, I'll just rattle them off. So when you guys do a public notice, it goes in the Wyndham Eagle and it goes on the website, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, just for the record, like I haven't gotten a Wyndham Eagle in like the last 3 weeks. So sometimes the Wyndham Eagle isn't always, but if I know to go to the website to look for things, that's helpful for me. Thank you. And then Teresa, you said that the select board always has public hearings. Is that, so every single meeting will have a public hearing? Is that correct?
No, we have a hearing before the warrants.
Okay.
Or we have a special,
Well, I think what she was talking about, because the voting was done a referendum, there was a public hearing prior to that, which was it has to be minimum of 10 days prior to that. At that meeting, I think there was 5 people.
I think I zoomed into that. Was that when you were going through all those
yes,
warrants and
then
whatever?
we had the garage people here, the engineers here.
Yeah,
too.
okay. I think I zoomed into that meeting. So I guess my question is, so when you have a monthly select board meeting, like you are now, right? There is always public comment at every meeting, except when you're in executive session,
right,
right?
yes.
There's always public comment. Okay, so this probably isn't then an appropriate or fair question in the sense that the planning board is not the same.
No.
So based upon my experience with my issue with the planning board, they, like, every one of their meetings does not have a public comment.
Right.
I think budget finance does, but I don't, yeah, I don't
Okay.
know what
Yeah,
plan.
And the-
planning board is different. Planning board's different.
Okay.
If they have public comment at certain, allowed at certain times when something's under review, but they don't have a general public comment time.
Okay. So, yeah, so I just wanted to sort of clarify that. So I appreciate you, Select Board, for giving the public the right to comment, because it was a little confusing with the planning board that we could comment after the fact, but not before things were happening,
Yeah,
which is why the solar thing sort of went how it did. And then let me ask you, because you guys are talking about warrants, so having gone through this process with the planning board, I think I understand how they create warrants, right? So like, because we were part of a process.
They don't create warrants. they
Or
create-
ordinances, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. They create the ordinances that then that you guys, that are submitted to you
Yes.
for the purpose of putting them on a warrant, and then the town gets to vote on it.
Yes.
Correct.
So the warrant becomes the law if the town votes on it, but the ordinances are written by the planning
Ordinance
board.
becomes the law.
Right, the ordinance becomes a law, but they're written by the planning board.
Correct.
So, and then I guess what is the public involvement in that?
They have public hearing, when they finalize or get an ordinance to its final stage, they have a public hearing. That public hearing, the public can come in and comment on that ordinance. What happens is so they create the ordinance, they get it through all their reviews, their legal reviews, then they'll have a public hearing on it. The public can comment on it if there's, if they want to take and make any adjustments to that after that. They can do that. Whatever goes to the town meeting cannot be amended. An ordinance cannot be amended at town meeting. It can only be voted either up or down.
Okay, so once they have and so again, this is planning board. Is it different for select board and budget finance? Because it sounds like you guys all sort of have various mechanisms to, and I'm using the wrong terminology, so Rolf, correct me because you're the wizard. But so if like everybody has an ability to do a ordinance, I'm going to use the word ordinance for the sake of argument. So if planning board does an ordinance and budget finance has their ordinance and other people have these ways of getting their ideas to you to review, right, to create a warrant that then goes to the town to vote.
Right.
Like, are all of those avenues the same in terms of like,
The internal operations of each of the committees is slightly different. Ultimately, the ultimate is the town meeting is the government. So the town meeting approves, an ordinance gets a recommendation from the planning board and the select board. The town meeting either approves or disapproves the ordinance. Then that becomes quote unquote law.
sure, okay. So what I'm circling back
but
to.
For,
go.
under warrant articles, those are, could be money, could be, things like, what date shall we set the tax bills due and
Sure.
things like that. Those are warrant articles. Those flow through, the warrant article is developed by the select board. Gets a recommendation from the select board. If it's a money item, then it gets a recommendation or non-recommendation from the budget committee. It then goes to the town meeting, and that is the final approval on it.
Right. So thank you for clarifying. So circling back, right, to what Peter had said earlier and the question I had asked with respect to the comprehensive plan. So if the planning board, right, is writing the land use ordinances, and they should be based on the comprehensive plan, and when they aren't, that causes a problem for the town for legal reasons if it ends up going to court. So I guess, in that instance, and particularly in our solar instance, right? Like the ordinance that went through was not in compliance with the comprehensive plan. And that's why some of us were all caught off guard by it, right? And then we were told, well, it doesn't go by the comprehensive plan, it goes by the ordinance, but they were in conflict with each other. So moving forward, it sounds like a lot of awareness has come to fruition on a variety of issues from a variety of committees or public citizens or whatever. And as a result, it looks like that you guys are gonna do more of a cooperative, sort of transparent approach to make sure that things are in line with each other, so that when the planning board is proposing an ordinance, they are going to the comprehensive plan to make sure that they're in compliance with that, right? So that there's no direct conflict, because presumably the citizens had already voted on that. So by them putting an ordinance forward that's in direct opposition to that, the average lay person, right, the average citizen, like when I'm going to the polls, I'm not going to know that, like, oh, okay, well, the planning board did this, but it's in conflict with the comprehensive plan, so I should vote this down, right? Like, there is nobody.
I think what happened in that situation was the 2004 comprehensive plan set some things in motion and how they wanted to go. But the state and the powers that be, the governors and whoever was going through, and solar wasn't a thing then,
right,
came
sure.
through. So then they kind of, it was more, not even really a gray area, but it was like a new and upcoming thing where they were trying to put it in different spots where a true commercial avenue wouldn't normally go, but this was solar, so they were giving it latitude, shoving that in there, and you couldn't really say it was definitely a gray area because it was commercial, but yet it was given this special treatment basically to get into that. And since 2004 there wasn't any solar farms or anything going on then, that's where it kind of snuck in. I believe I wasn't around for that part of it, but
right.
Keep in mind also interpretations.
Well, so I was going to.
So you've got,
you
have a comprehensive plan, which is essentially, goals, designs, and and things like that. There's interpretations done by the planning board when they're doing the ordinance. The ordinances are also reviewed by legal.
Right.
And then so one does feed to the other, but it's like every you take green, and that can be interpreted as, is it Kelly green or is it emerald green?
Sure. Right.
So green is not necessarily green. So it some depends on how they interpret it. And that's part of their job, is is doing interpretations and writing ordinances based on those interpretations. But as I say, at the end of the day, the town does have the final vote on an ordinance. The only thing they cannot do is at town meeting make a change to an ordinance. All they can do is either say yay or nay.
Correct.
Because if they make any change to it, then it can ripple through and do all kinds of things that you didn't intend for it to do. So that's why the only action that you can take there is either say yay or nay.
Correct. I understand that. So then I guess too, when you say it's subject to interpretation and ordinance are reviewed by legal, and I think I touched on this at another meeting, is just the education of the average layperson on what you're actually saying in your ordinance. And I think I think Dennis brought it up last time that, like, could you do a little blurb in plain language that says, because and I didn't even know this, Sue educated me, that, like, well, once you're in the voting booth, if you don't understand something, you can ask for a copy of it, right? But most people who are in the booth don't know to ask for a copy of it. They think once they're in there, they do that. And I think also to even read the warrant, like I did zoom into those 2 meetings when you guys were doing that. And I'm, again, I have a master's degree in tax law, so I know a little bit of law to be dangerous. And I need an attorney to understand what I'm voting on, so I think there needs to be a little bit of that if we're gonna say, well, it's subject to this interpretation or that interpretation because, you know, whose interpretation is it? Like my interpretation when I read the law might be different than what somebody else's interpretation is. And so I think it would be helpful just to, but it sounds like you're moving in that direction. Thank you for taking this time to educate me. You know, I am grateful to the process because it got me. I mean, you guys did such a great job for so many years. I didn't have to do anything, right? Like I just had to show up and check boxes because you keep Raymond running beautifully, and this was just an anomaly. But I'm grateful to it because I'm you know, learning about my municipal government, and I'm grateful to all of you for serving, and to comprehensive plan and budget finance because you're all volunteers. I mean, you know, thank you for giving your time and for giving us a voice and for keeping our town beautiful. I appreciate it, and thank you.
Yeah, and just real quick, just a practical example of how, you know, we probably all remember civics class where it's, you know, how a bill becomes a law. But what I will tell you is that here's a practical example. I went to in reviewing the what the housing situation was in the town of Raymond, I determined that what we had already as an ordinance was that an accessory dwelling unit would be 700 square feet. And I thought myself personally, that's a little too small. And so what I did is in January, I approached the code enforcement officer. And because the code enforcement officer will take to the planning board any citizen requests for ordinances. And then the code enforcement officer then brings that to the planning board early in the year for them to consider. And basically, the code enforcement officer will make recommendations on existing ordinances or new ordinances, and some of them are based on feedback from the public. Not the entire public understands that, and I did know that. So I went to the code enforcement officer and I said, you know, 700 square feet really isn't enough. How about 1,250? You know, I researched it. There's many communities around that basically have established an accessory dwelling unit to be 1,250 square feet. You know, that's large enough for a couple, either starting out or a retired couple to go into. And so he thought that was a reasonable request. Even if he didn't think it was a reasonable request, he was kind of compelled because a citizen of the town was bringing it to him. He brought it to the planning board. The planning board had a discussion when they were reviewing all of the proposed ordinances that would go to the select board for approval on the warrant. The planning board accepted the code enforcement officer's recommendation of increasing the square footage based on my request as a private citizen, brought it to the select board. The select board approved it. It went on the warrant. It went on the ballot, and it got approved. So that's a situation where an individual can basically bring a proposed warrant. And I would say you can do it yourself and approach the committee, but I believe that with the planning board, the process was, you know, the code enforcement officer would bring it to him. So you just seek out the code enforcement officer. Hope that helps.
That's gonna be known as the Peter warrant. You know, the Peter ordinance, yes.
Okay,
I have some comments. I'm curious how the agenda, how things get brought up from our comments, select board comments, at the end of a meeting. I thought they were relative to what happened that night, not relative to what happened 2 weeks ago or a month ago.
You mean on my stuff?
Yeah, I'm asking him how we get this stuff on the agenda.
public comment and selectmen comment are generally things that were not on the agenda.
Oh, okay. So if I have a concern, I can bring it in under my comments anytime at the public meetings, like Teresa did?
At the selectmen comment, yes.
Oh, okay.
From a typical standpoint, when it's selectmen comment or public comment, we don't respond to it. It's listening, and it's not. We kind of went off the tracks a little bit and got a little more interactive here, and that's kind of our a little bit of our prerogative to be able to do there. But in general, the public comment is things that were not on the agenda. Because during an agenda item, the public can speak to that agenda item. So it's you know, maybe a concern or whatever that they have that they could bring up at that point, which is why typically they're not responded to, because you know, it's listening to see what is it, you know, what are they saying. That may drive something to come up on a future agenda or whatever.
So what's the difference of new business and selectman comment?
Because we don't have new business.
It's never,
Oh, we do.
No.
yeah.
We have new business.
Well, new business are things that are on the agenda. The
Like if you
agenda is developed, and if people want to add something to an agenda, there's, you know, from the public or whatever, there's a form online that they can do to request something be put on the agenda. If there's, you know, if a select board member wants something put on the agenda, then, you know, get it to me, you know, to Sue, and then we finalize the agenda just before it gets sent out to us all.
An example would be like with the library, when I wanted them to come underneath the town. I asked it to be on there so it could be a big talk between everybody. This thing here, in all honesty, has never been this long as far as selectmen, but I think that there's things that needed to be clarified with the budget finance and the select board, so you guys, so they know what they can.
No, it's pretty extensive. I mean,
Yes, and
a
it's never
review of the
been.
whole meeting.
And so, but you
So
can.
something I
text
can't
them.
find, though, I'd heard that we can go back to 2001, and the reason I raised this question is I went through, before I became a selectman, and I did a ton of research over the 3 years I was on the budget committee. I can't find what the selectmen actually voted the 1% increase in for the pension contribution, but I can find out where the bylaws, the policy change was done in June to allow for it. But I couldn't find the vote. So I'm sure it's got to be there.
Oh, it's there.
So
We did-
would I go through Sue for that, or do I?
No,
How do I?
because
Because I can't find it.
Because it was supposed to have been, it was communicated to the finance director at that time to include that in the budget.
But we didn't
It
vote
was
on it.
assumed, well, we voted the budget, it was assumed that it was in there because we asked her to put it in there.
There wasn't a separate vote for that particular item.
Yes.
But doesn't it take a vote? As we said, financial things
budget
take a
was
If
vote.
it does, yeah, and what happens is we'd asked for it to be in there, so when it got presented, we believed that it was in there. And so when we voted the budget, by virtue of that, we approved that.
Even though it wasn't in there because you thought it was therefore a legal
Right,
vote.
because she was supposed to put it in, it didn't get put in. And so we, you know, so then once we found out that she, you know,
It was
then we had at the next meeting, we addressed that and we put it in.
No, it was June. It was the June when you decided to deal with it. But I was waiting for the vote, and what I heard was that it was a vote to change the policy to allow it, to change the policy to reflect it. But I didn't hear the vote. So that's why I was asking. If it was somewhere else, I'd like to have seen it.
Each year, we have to do that. We have to vote
Well,
that in the
let me just
policy.
ask on record here. I'd like to know if Sue could have someone find it so I could see the actual vote, not the policy change that allows, you know, people to have
As
it.
Rolf said, there was not a vote on that article. There wasn't a vote for that. The finance director was instructed by the select board to add that 1%. There wasn't a vote. It was an instruction to the finance director.
And then when we found out that it was not, then at the next select board meeting, we approved that increase.
And by voting the policy change, that
From 6 to 7.
increased the percentages.
Oh,
That
I
was,
thought it was a written thing on the policy that had to reflect that. I didn't realize it was actually a vote. Okay, that explains it. Thank you.
Okay, town manager's report.
and we've got the two upcoming dates, August 13th and September 10th, if that's, well, August 13th is kind of set in stone now since we have a special town meeting going, but is September 10th okay with everyone?
And 13th is now 6 PM,
Yes.
6
it is
PM,
6
right.
p.m.
just so everyone knows.
Oh, I've got to change my planner.
I'm good on those now, but
And then we've also got, what's the date on the,
And there is an upcoming training
Yep.
for
did you get that date?
committees. It is the 23rd, though at this point in time, I don't have a videographer for that.
Well, you would only need the videographer for the beginning part of it, and then the rest of it will be an executive session.
Right.
23rd
Of
Yes.
June.
at what
That's
time?
when,
No,
July.
July.
of
Oh.
July.
Oh, way better.
All right.
Sorry.
You're gonna send something out on that.
And what time is that one?
That
We'll
is,
send a reminder out there.
it
There was
was
one that was
5:30, but
sent
it
out,
should
but we'll send a
probably be
reminder
6
out.
o'clock. I haven't sent it out as yet. That should be 6 o'clock as well, Ralph?
Yes.
Okay.
So that may make it easier for
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
videographer
Yes,
side.
and that could be the issue. Mhm.
What time, September 30th?
6.
Both at 6.
And everybody's good on September 10th? Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
And we have a baby duck.
But I think it's a little insane, given the situation now, for any municipalities to be reducing revenue.
Well, Peter got up, so I'll speak as well. Brian Walker, Rolfe Road. It seems to me that one possible way to look at these is, does the cost of charging somebody, say $10 for the liquor license renewal, cost more to the town than doing the charging? Because if it does, then I would either say get rid of it or bring that number up. Because some of these numbers seem extremely low to me. I agree with you, Derek. It just seems that they've probably just naturally every year we just turn them over.
This could
but
be a
some of them could
40-year-old
be.
charge.
Yeah, exactly.
$10 is a lot.
Exactly. And we're not issuing that many liquor license renewals, but I mean, just as an example of something where maybe we just bring it up to the times a little bit.
Well, and some, like that one in particular, is set by state statute, so we don't have the authority to change it.
So $10 is it?
$10 is it, that's what we get.
I'm gonna go talk to the
18.
governor then.
Yeah.
I'll sign that petition.
Great.
All right. Is there a motion?
A motion to approve the Town of Raymond 2024-2025 fee schedule.
Second.
This one,
Discussion?
please.
All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. So we didn't do consideration of select board representations on boards and committees. Do we have a list of those?
I didn't see a list.
Is that in here, and what page? I'm now.
No, I neglected to make a list.
Okay.
That's
You want
my
to just
bad.
put it on the
Let's
next
hold
one?
that, then we'll hold that over to the next meeting.
Okay.
All right. Next item, public comment.
Brian Walker, Rolfe Road. I was recently, information came from the Panther Pond Association about the clearance of the Panther Run, and I know that, or at least was, the Tenny River was blocked. Thank you very much for managing that. However, I was really dismayed here that the work was being done by Q Team. Not very long ago, if I'm correct, not very long ago, the town was in a litigation with Q Team, and they were fined. And it just seems, and I know you guys can't respond now, but if any of you want to send me an email on this, that'd be great. I don't understand why we would do business with somebody who violated our rules, especially when there's two very solid companies within the town of Raymond. The gentleman over here in Garden, with Garden Tree, Lake Region Tree, TLC Tree, Veteran Tree, these are all companies that have the equipment, I believe, to do pretty much what anything Q Team could do, and clearly something like, I believe, clearing the trees from those places. So I suggest the town just review whether or not who we do business with if they have been in violation of our rules. It sends a really weird mixed message to me. Thank you.
I agree. Peter?
Peter Levitt, 211 Road. I'll keep this brief, but basically, I got an email earlier this week from Select Person Sadak asking if I would be willing to share some data from the Comprehensive Plan Committee, Update Committee, that I had shared along with the other co-chair of the committee to the Budget Finance Committee. And I guess my observation is this. Why did the Budget Finance Committee get that information and the selectmen didn't? And the answer is because the Budget Finance Committee asked us. So that's why they got the information. Just to give you a little bit of an understanding, a lot of the discussion tonight is on, issues involving ordinances, land use, voter education, and the like. And I started in January, along with the other co-chair of the Comprehensive Plan Committee, in asking that there be a meeting of the Select Board, the Comprehensive Plan Committee, and the Code Enforcement, and the Planning Board, so that we might all at least be on the same page. So when you're discussing something like, how does the Planning Board want to have a sense of where to go with solar, commercial solar? Wouldn't it be behoove all of those groups that I just mentioned to at least get some sense of where we're going down the road? Because, as I say, the vote to the citizens is going to take place in a year from now. I asked in January, I went through the town manager, and what I was told is, well, things are a little busy right now, but we'll arrange that meeting. I asked in February, basically the same answer. In March, I sent an email to the town manager and the Board of Selectmen. And generally I was told, well, after budget season, we'll get together and convene that group. And then I was told that it was going to happen in June. And I will tell you that I'm not telling anybody anything they don't know, it's June 20th. So I would say that a lot of the confusion or the sense of where we're going with land use ordinances and the like, that getting on the same page with planning and code enforcement and selectmen, as far as what we're hearing and the wealth of information we've gotten from the community. As an example, should there be commercial development that abuts residential zones on the 302 corridor? What do we want to really have for a comprehensive ordinance going down the road to deal with such things as environmental issues? So a great example would be this one, coordination. I just heard it mentioned. But down at the dam, oh, boy, if the town could have coordinated with the state, inland fisheries, and gotten some sort of a path for canoes just to be able to get down there, or a little bit better access for anglers to get in there, the time to do it is now. But that's just an example of the planning that I'm looking forward to seeing this town do more of, which is planning. And I just put a plug in here. When individuals are saying, well, I really didn't know what I was voting for. When I got here in 1985, there was 110 people crammed into an auditorium, and we had an in-person town meeting. And you know what? That's when the curmudgeons would get up, as I called them, the old guard, and they'd ask questions. And they'd get answers. Well, wait a minute, I don't really understand that. Well, here's the deal. Get up to the mic. And I understand that the argument is always going to be you get a lot more in the way of votes from a referendum. Unquestionably, that's the case. But we could get more attendance at town meeting if we made it more user-friendly. I can remember there used to be daycare there for the young families, and you could actually bring your kids there, and they'd have a few people entertain them while you took care of the town's business. And the other argument, as far as referendums are concerned, is that you get more representation, but my opinion is that the votes are less informed. So what do you gain from it? I'm not sure. I just put that plug in there. Thank you.
Boy, y'all are gonna get sick of seeing me. Jennifer Danzig, 38 Pulpit Rock Road. Just to piggyback onto that, because again, I'm not an uneducated person. So I have a bachelor's degree, a double minor, master's degree, accountant in tax law, so I know some law. I still need an attorney to decipher our ordinances in plain English so that I know what I'm voting for. And I think that that's something that Peter's speaking to that we've missed with, our town meeting when we used to all be there and it was more caucus style and you were more informed. And I apologize because I left and came back, and when I came back, somebody was saying like, well, could you do a little blurb or could you do that? And I would ask for that. Just because, again, my experience being at the polls on Super Tuesday and then this last time handing out flyers, talking to hundreds and hundreds of citizens here in Raymond, is that they are uninformed voters. So they're voting on something, they have no idea what it is. They thought it was our solar, it wasn't our solar, it was a different solar, blah, blah, blah. But like even if they read the warrant, even if they read it, I don't know that you'd understand it because of the legalese. So to the extent that we can make Raymond more friendly, and as you said, the comprehensive plan, I've been to those meetings, and you have a chance to ask questions and look at maps and do this and do that. To the extent that we can make Raymond more voter friendly, education friendly, simplify things, because if I have a bachelor's, 2 minors, a master's, and I still need a lawyer to understand the ordinance. Like, God help you if somebody doesn't have that level of education and they don't know what they're voting on. And I think that's where you get dissatisfied citizens, because then you feel like, that's why I was asking the question when you said like, well, did we vote on the building or did we just vote on the bond? Like, people don't want to feel like we're being tricked. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want the cutesy and run. So I'm grateful that you clarified. Thank you. And I really am grateful to all of you for serving. And it seems like, in multiple capacities, it sounds like you were fire chief. I think I remember that. And now you're here. And so we really have this really lovely town full of people who really care about our town and give a lot of service to our town. So thank you for that. I will ask, just because I'm here, I wasn't planning on speaking again, but when you did that committee stuff, so if people are on committees and they stay on committees, then they just stay on committees and there's no openings for new people to join? Like, how does that work? Because you all just voted on different committees, for example, if you're on a board and your term expires, do you just keep rolling over if you want to stay on, or do you have to leave after your 3-year term? Or like, how again, making it voter friendly, getting new blood in, is it easy to be involved? Is it difficult to be involved?
Their terms are on there, so like people on planning board have a certain amount of years that they're in for that. They volunteer and then they get in there. After that term, they can do it again, or somebody else can come in.
Right, but if they do it again and they stay on forever, then there's no openings for new people to come on?
No, necessarily. After that, it goes, anybody can come in, and then they would still be there wanting to do it. Another guy can come in and want to do it. After their term, that's when you would vote again. And
okay, because I know some are appointed and some are voted. Like, obviously, you guys are voted.
Out randomly, like tomorrow, somebody moves and gets out of the planning board, then we have an opening. and, you know, it's the floodgates open and whoever wants to go in and.
Right, but what I'm saying is if the 3-year term expires and they choose to stay on another 3
have
years,
to get
there's no
voted.
getting.
They have to
vote
them
again.
off.
Well, they have to-
There's no
They
opening.
have to get
No,
reappointed.
it's an opening. Their term. is
Oh,
up.
they
It's
have
an
to get
opening. They have to
reappointed. And then
It's
the
not even
other,
appointed. They have to get voted back in.
and then the other committees, like comprehensive committee, or Dennis, you were talking about some sort of citizens committee to do different things that you've done in the past.
Usually with the committees.
It depends on the committee. Like the Comprehensive Plan Committee was appointed to do the comprehensive plan. So they're on there until that plan is complete.
Then that committee is dissolved.
Planning board and whatnot, they have defined terms. And so when their term comes out, they can reapply for it. But if, you know, but
so
I'll put it to you this way, we've had more issues with
Trying to get
people leaving.
No, I
leaving
understand.
for one
Trying to
reason or
fill.
another. Either they move out of town or, you know, whatever it may be, and then finding people to go
Yeah.
put in there. So I mean, whenever there's an opening, it is advertised that there's.
And like I said, I have been one of those uninformed voters who was raising children. So I was very involved with the school board before I had kids and the town. And, you know, before we did consolidation, I was arguing against it.
You know,
But anyway, like way 25 years ago. And
And
then
the other
sort
thing
of
I
took
would
a
say
break
is
to raise
there
family.
is online, there's an application form, and you can put those in, and those reside in there, so that if a position
Okay.
does come up, then those can be, and they get a hold, oh, you said you were interested in this, you still interested?
Right,
So-
yeah.
So I mean, if people go
Okay.
in and fill those
Thank
out,
you.
then that
Yeah, I
information exists.
informally spoke to Sam and Derek and Joe at the last polls. I know you talked to my husband. I was talking to a potential voter, and I did catch Sue. So, and I am gonna, I told Sue already, I'll volunteer to help at the November election. But you sort of awakened a beast, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But, you know, every silver lining is that, you know, through this solar fight, I've really gotten to know our government. I've really gotten to know people in town. I've got to see a lot of different people. I've really educated myself, and now I have the time, as I'm about to become an empty nester in the next couple of years, to you know, give back and participate. And again, I'm grateful for all that you do. Thank you so much.
And to your point, I did the same thing as you. I don't know how many years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago, I went in to vote, and I was confused on what was going on. So I went up and asked one of the clerks or somebody that was helping out there, and they have the pamphlets there to read. And so then I went back to the booth, and I'm probably the only person that took an hour to vote. But I read through everything and voted, and then from there realized where everything was, how it got there.
Yeah.
Now I'm here because of that. It is good and bad, but you do have to take some responsibility, as like a town, not you personally, but
Right.
as a resident, to, you know, investigate a little bit if you want to or care to be involved. It's a little bit of a process that you do have to actually
It
do the
is,
homework,
and
so.
and I think we were very spoiled with town meeting, and we were spoiled when we were a caucus state, right? Before we went to primaries and referendums, because it brought us out as a community, and we got to talk with our neighbors, and we got to hash things out, and we got to educate ourselves. And as we've, you know, moved to, okay, now we're not caucusing, we're primarying, and now we're not a town meeting, we're just a referendum vote. It places more of the onus on us, and we just have to get used to it and get back into
Yeah,
it.
these are once a month, so I tell
Oh,
everybody
you're
out
going to
there-
see a lot of me.
I
You're
tell
going to get
everybody out
sick of
there,
me.
come hang out and figure it out. You know,
'Cause-
hit a couple clicks on the
Yeah.
town website and also show up, because these are open questions, you know, all that stuff. It's hard to get blindsided if you do come to the meetings and click.
Exactly. Yeah, and again, I'll ask a lot of questions just for education purposes. I'm
We
not
like
trying
it.
to
Helps,
be dismissive.
it helps you, but it also helps people on Zoom, or that can go back and rewatch the meetings, all that. So
Very good.
definitely helps.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, on committees.
Yeah.
I think earlier I misspoke. Mel does, and I used to contact the chairs of the committees to see if they want the members reappointed. For instance, with the planning board, to an extent, the longer you're on, the more experience you gain. There's a lot to know, a lot to learn, and it's not easy to walk into. So if they have people that are already working, the chairs tend to want to reappoint. There are other committees, like the Beautification Committee, for instance, that's always looking for members. They could have 50 members on there and would be thrilled right to pieces. So it depends on the committee and what level of commitment there is to it, what level of work there is to it, and knowledge, and also what level of availability and just wanting to come out. There are a lot of different opportunities in the town of Raymond to help, but getting that application in is key. And we ask you to put on there, I think it's 3 different committees that you're interested in, or up to 3. But when you do multiple committees, each of the either admins in the town that take care of those committees or the committee chairs get a copy of those applications so they can follow up with the people and let them know what the status is and whatnot.
Thanks, Jim.
Other public comment?
I have a question.
Jeff Morris, 13 Anderson Road. We talked about doing some extra committees too, and someone had set up like a committee to look into grants and stuff like that for the town. Is that something that's still moving forward with anything? Do we have anybody that, or is this not the time to ask this question?
That committee hasn't been formed. It's one of the thoughts.
Do we do anything like that? Is there any infrastructure that's out there for like public works or public safety that
We
you guys
do.
do all that? Sorry, I don't know. I was just
The
wondering if-
department heads right now on the whole do, and I've started looking at companies that do it.
Yeah.
But there was some talk about committees that just hasn't been appointed.
Okay, just hasn't been appointed, but is that still being looked into and everything?
Not actively.
Are we
I don't
looking at
believe,
committees, or are we looking at appointing somebody that is a grant writer or
Yeah,
something
I was,
in the
Are you
town?
I
good at
was
getting
going to be
grants?
looking for
I'm
a
not.
grant
I'm
writer.
actually
Yeah.
probably horrible. I thought it was a neat idea. I would be willing to help. I'm not
Right.
very
No,
good
no,
at
no,
it,
yeah.
but,
No, we often do
But
get
that would
grants. The
be-
fire department applies for them. I've applied for them for
Okay.
elections. Nathan has gotten a grant
Okay,
before.
I think that'd be a great thing just to look out to see if there's
Yeah.
some money out there. Thanks.
Other public comment? Selectman comment?
I do.
Okay.
I went to the budget finance meeting the other night, and there were some questions that were asked, and I just wanted to bring those up so we are aware of those. One of the things that was talked about was where the money goes to as far as the Buteau fines and stuff like that, how it's put in there. There was some thoughts on that. There was, sorry, wait a minute. One of the budget finance had said that there was some ideas they had for the money and stuff like that, and they wanted to know where we put most of the first money. And we put it towards tax relief. And I do believe that the reason why we did that was because the year before we could not do tax relief because all the money was tied up into lawyers' fees. So this year we did it, but there's another payment that's coming, and Budget Finance would like to know if we have any ideas as to what we would be doing with that.
Did they have suggestions?
They had a couple, right, Sean? I thought you guys did. Someone had said a collection of money for legal fees fund.
Well,
One of
the first thing we want to know what it could be used for. And it was totally fine. You were not willing to speak about what it could be used for. So just in general, what are the options for that? The thing, this is my personal opinion, I'm not speaking so much on budget finance, but you use it toward tax relief, and what was that, $500,000 or that first payment? What are we taking, $16 million or something like that in tax revenue? Something along those lines? $500,000 to lower taxes? And what is that, like, I don't know the math, but $50 off people's tax bills, you know? What else can we use that can help and better the community? One of my thoughts was this violation, I'm glad we got through it. I'm glad the time frame and everything. The next one, we might not get so lucky. It might be a long, bloody fight. Maybe we set some money aside just in case. Defend ourselves as a community. That way, if we do have another violation, we can fight it a little bit better. That's just one of the things that I had asked. I'm not saying that's a suggestion. I think we're going to probably talk about it a little bit more as budget finance. I think we would like to bring you some recommendations, but the question is, what else can we use it for besides just taxes? If you're willing to share.
I don't think 500,000 was put towards tax relief on that.
We
particular
haven't,
one, was it correct?
to begin with, we haven't put anything towards
Right.
anything yet.
Okay, that's what I thought.
What we've done, what was in the warrant article was to authorize use of up to a certain figure for tax relief.
700.
We won't get into that until we see the actual tax commitments and whatnot.
Yeah.
So that's when we'll decide how much we use towards that. But otherwise, it goes into, at this point, it goes into undesignated surplus because it has to go into the general fund. It's money that came in. The other side of it is, of course, it offsets overage that we had on the legal side for the last 2 years. So, so I mean, from one standpoint, the only place it can go into is undesignated surplus because it's money that's come in that was essentially was not anticipated. So that's where it has to go until a decision is made on where finally it gets spent. But as far as how much gets used towards tax relief or whatever, that we will not decide until we see where the valuation comes in at and where that's going to affect the mill rate and things like that.
Yeah, fair enough. We just want to bring it up now because we're thinking about being on budget finance. We're thinking about the future. And this is a good opportunity to kind of protect our town. And I'm not suggesting anything tonight. I'm not looking for any suggestions, but if you can keep that open mind about how can we use this besides just tax relief.
I just wanted to put that out there from that meeting. So it was keeping the communication back and forth.
Anything else under selectman comment? Okay, town manager's report.
Oh, I forgot I had a piece. I'm sorry. Open up the agenda again.
Don't mind.
So the next meeting dates, we've already talked about them, is, oh, that's the wrong one, is July 9th and August 13th, if that's all right with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And we have, oh, stop. And then I have a computer that isn't set up for me to open Word. So I need to find the PDF version real quick.
You have Thursday, July 4th closed.
Yes, and 4th of July is coming up. So we just had Juneteenth yesterday, and we will have the 4th of July on Thursday the 4th. And that's really all I have for my manager's report.
Okay. Next item.
A motion to go in executive session on consideration of appointing an interim treasurer pursuant to MRSA 1, Section 4056A.
Second. Second. All those in favor? Okay. We will go into executive session.
A motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion, we're out of executive session.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Joe Crocker as the interim treasurer
Is there a second?
I'll
Point
second
or-
that, yeah.
while we look for a new one.
Right. That's why the term interim. All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried.
Motion to
Adjourn.
adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Meeting is adjourned.
Okay, good evening and welcome to the Budget Finance Committee Orientation Workshop. This evening, I would like to go over the Budget Finance Committee ordinance, which lays out how the Budget Finance Committee will operate. We have all gone through this before. How would the committee like to approach it? Do we want to read through it out loud, or we just want to read through it individually with paragraphs?
I think we go through it with paragraphs.
Okay.
For each paragraph, and see if there are any questions or
Okay.
any comments.
Seems to me the most significant piece of it is probably the powers and duties.
Okay.
You think?
Sure. Why don't I go ahead and just read the paragraph, and then we'll decide if we want to
Okay.
discuss it?
Yep.
Does that sound okay, Dawn?
Sounds good to me. yeah.
Okay. Section 5, powers and duties. The Budget and Finance Committee shall have the following powers and duties: to consider each article for raising, appropriating, or borrowing monies to be expended by or for the town, with opportunity for discussion with those persons proposing the same, and to make recommendations on such articles to the town meeting for which they were drawn, which shall appear on the warrant in substantially the following form. The Town Budget and Finance Committee recommends approval or disapproval. Paragraph B, to discuss with and make recommendations to the Select Board on proposals for specific expenditures. Paragraph C, to investigate and recommend to appropriate town departments the availability of federal and state and other grants, loans, guarantees, and other assistance for the town, and the types, terms, benefits, and disadvantages thereof. Paragraph D, to study and make recommendations on the general financial position, policies, and practices of the town and its departments. Paragraph E, to study and make recommendations on any proposal for payment of services or equipment by bond or note. Any such proposal, with the exception of general tax anticipation notes, which will be reviewed under Section 5D, will be accompanied by an impact statement and recommendation for rejection or approval. Paragraph F, to develop and maintain, with the input from all other committees and boards in town, a 5-year moving capital improvement plan. And paragraph G, to study and report to the Select Board potential revenue raising opportunities that may require actions by the board or town manager. Okay, section C6 is membership, quorum, and voting. The Budget Finance Committee shall consist of 7 voting members plus the chair of the Select Board, who shall be a non-voting ex officio member. The reduction in number from 9 to 7 will occur due to attrition. Existing members may continue as voting members on the committee, and each may petition to be a candidate on upcoming ballots. I don't think we need to go through the rest of that. Section B, the chair and the vice chair of the Budget and Finance Committee shall be elected by a majority of the Budget and Finance Committee voting members at the first meeting after June 30th of each year. C, voting members must be residents of the town of Raymond and shall be elected annually by the town via secret ballot vote at the annual town meeting and have staggered 3-year terms. Section D, any vacancy among the voting members shall be filled either via appointment by the Select Board until the next annual town meeting secret ballot vote following the creation of that vacancy, or by the town at the first annual town meeting secret ballot vote following the creation of that vacancy. E, the Budget and Finance Committee shall officially act only in the presence of a quorum of 4 voting members. Official motions will pass only on a majority vote of all voting members of the Budget and Finance Committee, unless the Budget and Finance Committee unanimously votes to adopt other rules at the first meeting of the year after the annual meeting and agrees to utilize the revised voting procedure for the full year. No member of the Budget and Finance Committee shall vote on a budget item in which the member has an interest. That makes sense. F, all members shall abide by the rules for conflict of interest pursuant to 30A MRSA subsection 2605. All members will sign upon taking their oath of office and will adhere to the Town of Raymond Code of Ethics for appointed and elected municipal officials. I don't think we need to go through the non-attendance. Severability, if in any part or part, section or subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is for any reason declared to be unconstitutional or invalid, such shall not affect the validity of constitutionality of the remaining portions of this ordinance or any rules or regulations promulgated hereunder. And this ordinance shall become effective upon passage by the legislative body of the Town of Raymond at a duly called town meeting. Okay. Are there any sections that anyone would like to discuss or go over or questions on? We're all good?
I'm good, and I guess, you know, despite having served for 23 years, and I was aware of this ordinance, obviously, but the Budget Committee hasn't operated as, I guess, as close to these codicils as they might have, and so I think, you know, particularly, you know, from B down through G, there's going to be a change in the operating procedures for the good, I think, absolutely, but there's a lot more intensive sort of interaction and study than what has been done in the past.
I would agree with you, Dan.
Yeah, and so the biggest thing to me was this development of the CIP, and I guess that's something you've been working on.
Yes, I have. I'm very interested in putting together a document that lists all of we're going to work with the Public Works Director on our next CIP review and put together a document that lists all of the equipment and have it sorted by the age of the equipment, so you can see the oldest to the newest, and put out 5 columns for the next 5 years of the budget cycle. And then what we had in the middle was the price paid when the equipment was bought. And that's the only known value that we have. And we also have the year of when the Public Works Director plans to replace that equipment. So if we take those figures and put them in the columns and sum them up, then we'll have the actual estimate of probably of what we have coming in the next 5 years. And so I've requested that from the town manager, and that will be sent to us in an e-packet, but...
So it'll be similar to what the fire department's always done?
Exactly. That's exactly how the fire department did it.
Right.
And we should do that for the public works, so we're consistent across the board and can look at the summaries, because we have a lot of high expenditures coming in the next 5 to 10 years between the fire department equipment, the public works equipment, Jordan Small School coming back to the town, the comp plan moving forward. These are very high value items, and to do what we're asked to do, we need to have all of those figures.
Right. You know, some of the other things in here I think are kind of interesting about, you know, grants and so forth and revenue sources. That's something that the committee has never done either, and the staff does that. And so I think that's going to have to be, by design, a collaborative effort. But that's an interesting thing to see if we can uncover, you know, opportunities that, you know, might be available to us to supplement the budget or to apply for specific initiatives. And so that's not something that has been done either during my time. And I think that's a pretty exciting opportunity as well.
Yes.
So there's some good stuff in here.
Yes, and I think it would be a great opportunity for us to learn how to do that.
Yeah, we actually have a great person on staff with Kathy Goslin, who has done a lot of grantsmanship successfully for the town. Bruce Tupper has been very successful in that area as well. And so we have some people on staff who are good at it.
That's great.
So that's
good for the
exciting.
town.
And then as far as revenues, it's always a good idea to see if you can find additional revenues. And so we can work on that for sure. You know, besides grants, but yeah. Although we have seen some changes in the fee schedule and other things that we've done, and, you know, monetizing some particular, you know, functions, some in public works, you know, the rental equipment, whatnot. We should take a look at all that stuff in detail. But yeah, so there's a lot of things to think about here.
This document doesn't get amended much. It was 1980, 1995, and the last time was 2018, which was 6 years ago. Was there anything that you had read or thinks needs to be added or amended to this that you think that are, I mean, 2018 wasn't that long ago, but anything you think to kind of bring us into?
Not particularly, but I think as we maybe work through this new budget cycle with this thing as the guiding light as to what the committee's roles and responsibilities are, I think any kind of deficiencies might become apparent through that process. But I don't have anything offhand. I just think it's a, it's obviously an expansion of what's been done, and I think it's just been done by, precedent and practice, and this is actually the governing document. And I think Dennis originally dug into this when he was on the budget committee, and that was a good thing. And so obviously this should be passed out, handed out for new members, and there should be an orientation like this, including this every year. But when I came, that wasn't done, and I admit, I just went with the flow of how the committee was operating.
I have a question as to how the budget committee, or if the budget committee can recommend additions to the warrant. If the budget committee feels there are things that have not been included in the warrant that might be something that the town ought to look at, or at least the select board might look at to add to the warrant, is there any way we can do that, or the committee could do that?
I think under law you can suggest most anything. I mean, you got to make sure that it's in compliance with Maine law, and under home rule, I think you can do that. One thing I used to hear a lot about is the idea that at the town meeting, warrant articles could be reduced but not increased, and so, to me that always seemed kind of anti-democratic. There may be some prohibition, but I would think that democracy would work both ways. As the town meeting, the annual town meeting, of course, is the governing body of the town, like the Congress of the town. And so that'd be like telling Congress, you can only reduce budgets, you can't increase them. But that's just my thing. I think the worry is that a small group of people could come in and make a big change, but in my history in local government, 40 years, I've never seen that.
What's that?
B covers it, is that what it
B?
says? To discuss with and make recommendations to the select board on proposals for specific expenditures. Section 5B.
That's what I was looking at. That's why I was questioning whether that's ever been done before.
Right.
Is the operative word there recommendation?
To discuss with and make recommendations to the select board on proposals for specific expenditures. So, discussion and recommendation. So as far as what you were asking was changing words, I think they keep hearing this a lot over the last couple of meetings. You can't change this. You're just voting yes or no, and what your recommendation is. The way this is kind of lining it up, it doesn't seem like we could be adding anything, but the discussion needs to be had to make that recommendation ahead of time. I think the question that you have is, well, if you have a certain recommendation and it's kind of overlooked, what happens to it?
Right. Or is there a way that we could meet with the select board before the formal meetings are held, in which things can't be changed, so that we could discuss the articles at a point where they might be changed, or a word added or subtracted, or a sentence changed, before we get to the point where nothing can be done.
Right.
Because if the committee is looking at things that can't be changed, it handicaps us.
Mm-hmm. Get to it before
I agree.
that point.
Right. I could see maybe doing it before that point, but I don't think we've ever had that opportunity before to do that.
I don't think so either.
No,
I think, so what we're looking at is drafting up the warrant language and presenting it as a draft, and having a meeting with the select board and the
Absolutely.
budget committee, and have that dialogue both ways,
Yes.
where the opportunity to make changes to the warrant language would exist.
There'd be less loggerheads, I would think, if we had some forum in which we could sit down and have a discussion as to what the warrants are gonna look like.
I think this committee's gone a long way to already start that ball rolling. And what I'm hearing is that what there needs to be is more communication, and it has to be communication that's thoughtful and respectful and comprehensive. That's my word of the day. But what I'd tell you is that as far as, and I think I understand what you're suggesting, Frank, would be, and I think I agree with Don on this, is that as it stands right now in town government, it's the selectmen that basically give the thumbs up or down on a warrant article, and then it goes to the people. What we've seen, I think, for the first time since I've been here, is a people's petition. Correct me if it's happened before, but a people's petition basically has said, even if the select board chooses not to place something before the people, if you get the requisite number of petition signers, then the people can override the select board and say, we want this issue to go to a vote. And so, you know, the actions of this committee this last year that I've watched, and the actions of just the last select board meeting with the people involved with the solar farm, basically have they've done what you're saying, which is that's where there's a way to circumvent, if you will, the select board if they don't want to listen to the people.
Peter, would you introduce yourself, just so people will know who's talking? You can sit here, and I've turned the microphone so you'll be able to.
Workshop, can we give it to them?
Oh, yeah.
So people.
Peter Levitt, 2 Levitt Road. And so basically, what I'd say is that, and I'm sorry, I came in a little late, but I believe you were going over the ordinance that governs the Budget Finance Committee. As I had mentioned, I think at the emergency meeting, it would behoove you, and I know it's more work on your plate, but you know, I've done it before, so it's I know that it's valuable, and that's to look at using that document to just basically sculpt out some bylaws for the committee. That may help down the road with questions about Roberts, with questions about you know, when you meet and how you meet, and you know, the attendance thing. When I was on the Board of Appeals, Zoning Board of Appeals, there was an issue that we had to deal with involving a member in attendance.